Hello and welcome to the Saladcast. It's the 29th of December and it's time for Game of the Year deliberations from Happy Salad. So, rather than the usual random, let's get stuck in, shall we? Rob is running the categories this year, as usual. So
as always.
Let's break them out.
All right. But first of all, let's get the housekeeping out of the way.
Yeah.
Spoilers may occur.
Well, yeah.
We will attempt to avoid them.
Not really.
Maybe, yeah, but not really.
Unless it's something that we don't want to spoil for each other between the three of us.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. We haven't actually sort of picked out, like, we could choose to add categories like best character or best story or stuff like that if we really want to, and in which case that will probably be massively spoilerific at that point. But until we decide to do that, we might avoid most of that. It'll be on the merits of gameplay. Also, we can't play every game, so most of the deliberations will only include those games which we have actually played. General rule for us, I suppose. But there may be times where we talk about various things like that are just known about games we haven't touched. So there. So to bring out the list of, like, here are the games we have played this year in full.
Oh, don't do that.
We don't do that. Why not? Like, it's
really unnecessary.
Well, it's to remind not to remind Dan what we've all been playing, what's on the list, so we can.
That's fine. You can just mention them for categories, I suppose, right?
Okay.
That's why I have my own list anyway. So when you're saying a category that might not have stuff in it, I could be looking at my list and seeing what might go into it. Because I'm never going to remember them, even if you say them now.
Yeah, we've probably spent as much time arguing about this as it would have for me to just bloody do it.
I don't think so. It's quite a long list, surprisingly. I didn't think it was going to be as long as it was, really.
Yeah, we did pretty good this year in terms of covering stuff. Amplitude, Battlefield 1, Civilization 6, Day of the Tentacle Remastered, Doom, Enter the Gungeon, Firewatch, Mitomo, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, No Man's Sky, Overcooked, Overwatch, Owlboy, Planet Coaster, Pokemon Go, Pokemon Picross, Project High Rise, Quantum Break, Redout, Runbow, Shenzhen. Is it Shenzhen or Shenzhen.io?
Yeah,
Shenzhen. Speedrunner, Starbound, Stardew Valley, Star Fox Guard, Star Fox Zero, Super Dungeon Bros, Super Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Tetris Ultimate, Titanfall 2, The Witness, Thumper, Tricky Towers, and XCOM 2.
You already fucked up because, as I said, Pokemon Picross did not come out this year.
Did it not?
No, came out December of last year.
Who played Pokemon Go? Did you play it, Rob?
I played Pokemon Go, yeah.
Not for very long.
No. Honestly, no. Games not out that we played: Krea, Factorio, and Space Engineers.
That I played.
And the notable not played list.
No, don't do that one. That's even longer.
It's about the same length.
Damn it.
Abzu, Attack on Titan, Battleborn, Bound, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, we have played Civilization now. I can remove that one. Dark Souls 3, Dead Rising 4, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, Dishonored 2, Far Cry Primal, Final Fantasy 15, Forza Horizon 3, Gears of War 4, Hitman, Hyper Light Drifter, Inside, Mafia 3, Mario & Luigi Paper Jam Bros, Metroid Prime Federation Force, Mighty Number 9, Nitro Plus Blasters, Heroin Infinite Duel, Abduction, Pac-Man Championship Edition 2, Paper Mario Color Splash, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2, Pokemon Sun and Moon, Pokken, Pony Island, Ratchet & Clank, Recall, Res Infinite, Roller Coaster Tycoon World, Street Fighter 5, Super Dungeon Bros I played recently, so I can take that out. Super Mario Run I played before we went on air. Super Hot, The Division, Last Guardian, Trials of the Blood Dragon, Uncharted 4, Unravel, anything in VR, and Watch Dogs 2. With anything in VR being slightly questionable because Dan has actually done some VR stuff. That's it. So, are we doing an older game category as previously discussed? Because we used to do best game of last year that we played this year.
Well, I don't think there's been many, though.
No, that list is
not just of last year, anyway.
No, the list is very small for 2015 games. Although, I guess we add Pokemon Picross to that list now.
I guess.
So, if we're doing this, that would be the Affordable Space Adventures, Broforce.
Space Adventures.
Space.
Space Adventures.
Sean Connery's Affordable Space Adventures.
And then he started turning German midway through that.
Space Adventures. Bit of Bane in there as well.
Yeah.
Broforce, Hand of Fate, Life is Strange, only the first episode. Pokemon Picross, and Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is technically just about snuck out at the end of last year on Xbone.
Yeah, on that one specific platform.
Which is the version I played, so there you go.
So presumably the actual best games of last year we played this year are disqualified for being contenders for Game of the Year last year.
Yeah, the reason we normally include the best game of 2015 that we played in 2016 is to sort of honour those that we missed.
Well, it's just games that we didn't get to until 2016.
Yeah, because we didn't necessarily can't play everything, and sometimes you come across a great game of last year that could have been in a contendee for something. Contender.
Well, yeah, I guess. I don't know if contendee would still make sense.
No,
Maybe.
can you have a contender? Can you be a contendee?
I don't think so.
No. So there we go. So recap of those, I suppose. Affordable Space Adventures was that all co-op sort of puzzle game that Zach, myself, and Gnome all got involved with. Where
It was a Wii U game that actually did Wii U stuff, so it came out on the Wii U.
yeah, and did we use stuff well? You know, the dials and stuff on the gamepad are all quite
Well, I mean,
designed well and quite cool in order to...
still had the problem of like not really distributing the workload very evenly.
No, whoever had the gamepad had vastly more to do than anyone else. The science officer, which is me, basically just shining a torch about the game
Yep.
and occasionally firing a flare at things. But otherwise, pretty cool. I'm trying to work out if we think it's possibly a little too long. Because we finished it in 2 sessions, but...
I think it was okay. It just like there were some bits towards the end that were unnecessarily long just for being long.
Yeah.
Not even puzzles. That whole last bit with the flying through the winter was like, that's just annoying. Especially because it's like, it actually was quite precise on the timing. You had to be pretty goddamn on like going in the exact moment you could.
And the sort of... Well, there's the bit where you had to just use anti-grav to float between those things that sensed any kind of activity.
Well, I'm sure there was probably a better way to do that.
Maybe, yeah.
Than the dodgy ass way we ended up doing it.
Yeah, bouncing off walls and then adjusting how gravity affects us. So there was that. We played a bit of Broforce for a video as part of our Steam A to Z. Well, to be honest, I haven't gone back to that because I thought we might play that a bit more of that at some point. But we sort of haven't.
No.
To be honest with you, I think that game's quite one note.
Yeah.
Like, you just go around and shoot stuff, like in an old school way, and that's about it. It does that kind of okay. I did play the PS4 version briefly, and that has frame rate issues. So, not so hot. Hand of Fate was that bizarre, like, roguelike card game, which is the cool side of that game.
It just seemed like it
Married with a slightly poor Batman combat system.
seemed like it would come out even earlier than last year, but
No, it didn't. It was early that, and then we've got Hand of Fate 2 this year.
yeah, I guess.
So, coming. Life is Strange, which is the sort of Telltale-esque teenage angstathon, made by Playdead. No, is it Playdead? Not Playdead. Oh, anyway. There was the guys that made Remember Me. I can't remember their name. But yeah. And I only played the first episode of that, and it was okay. It was a bit slow. It seemed like it was just setting everything up for everything else to happen. Pokemon Picross. Picross. For free. With Pokemon in it. Not a great deal to add to that, I suppose.
Not even every Pokemon.
Not even every Pokemon. Watch it. And then Rise of the Tomb Raider, sequel to the original reboot Tomb Raider. Original reboot of Tomb Raider. Which was just more of the first game, really. But sort of plays better, but narratively dull. But if narratively makes a bit more sense, I don't know. Difficult one to peg. And they were the only catch-up games I think we played this year. Every other catch-up game we played was older.
Yeah.
So out of that list, I'm fairly tempted to give it to Affordable Space Adventures.
Yeah, probably.
Just because of it doing unique things.
doing a Wii U thing correctly,
Yeah,
mostly.
Seems
it's admirable. Especially as it was an indie endeavour, right? Like, just for an indie to come in and do... I mean, we're making a Wii U game, and it's not going to be possible anywhere else. Unless we did something fancy and had, like, an app that you could download onto your iPad and play it that way.
Yeah,
They could have potentially done that with a PC version. But then Rise of the Tomb Raider is pretty good, but it's just more Tomb Raider, if you know what I mean. Any arguments against affordable space adventures winning best game of last year?
No.
No. Motion carries. Well done, affordable space adventures. May your fax machine forever be fixed. Okay. Most forgotten category. These are any game that we think may have just disappeared into obscurity that was supposed to be a big deal but then sort of went away. For context, we gave this to Evolve last year.
Mm-hmm.
Because it sort of released with a bang and then sort of disappeared. As nobody cared. So... Or it can literally be games we've forgotten about. That they sort of...
Well, I don't know if that is entirely true, but sure.
That we sort of... So I've sort of populated this list of ones I sort of consistently forget exist. One of which being The Division. I sort of keep forgetting that was a thing.
How do you keep hearing that was a thing?
Well, I don't know, it just flew so outside my radar this year. It's like, I remember hearing a lot about it and people being all a bit sort of, yeah, it's alright and stuff, but then it's like, I guess it just sort of fades into the same hole of my brain that Destiny is filled with.
Yes.
The Destiny hole.
The Destiny hole. I'm destined to be in the hole. Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Because as cool as that game was, it sort of, well, looks anyway, as cool as Mirror's Edge's style is, that game always seems to just come and go.
That's because it's not a long game and it's only only a single player thing.
No, but it feels like it should have more of an impact than it does, but like for all the style it has.
I don't think it's forgotten.
Okay, fine. That's and then Pokken.
I don't think that was forgotten either, really. That was another one where it was like there was not very much content, so it survived as long as its content did.
Well, for a game like that, you need to sort of have an update cycle to it, which
It
didn't
obviously
really.
did not happen because it was Nintendo.
It's Namco more than Nintendo.
It was on a Nintendo system, and they don't have any idea what the fuck DLC is still.
Well, I guess the Smash Bros. DLC is still proof of that. How all the add-ons cost more than the actual game. And are less content than the original game. Good job, Ninty. Well, then, there's always Battleborn,
Well, yeah.
which nobody has forgotten because it was so forgotten.
Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable candidate.
There's a bunch of other stuff.
Alright, hit me.
Well, clearly Rob didn't really care and then forgot about Plants vs. Zombies 2.
Well, that's true, actually. That's a good nomination. Yeah. Yeah. I'd sort of... I should be hyped for that game. Because it was, the first game was right up my street. It was a good multiplayer shooter, solid multiplayer shooter. With some great art and great sound design, and it being powered by Frostbite and having a cool card system, which isn't something I can say very often about games, but its card system was actually kind of cool. Or stickers, I think they called them all.
Yeah.
When you build up your collection, that was all kind of neat. So Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2 comes along, does that again with more levels. I think it had all of the original content still in it, and then they expanded it. But I guess I didn't really like... I played the beta a bit, and I didn't really like the new balance with the new characters. The new characters just seemed super OP. I wasn't a big fan of the emphasis on zombies
No.
this time round, because they're definitely less cool than Dave and his tacos. I should have liked it, but for some reason didn't care.
Is that forgotten though, or is that like worthily?
Well, I forgot it for this list.
Yeah, you forgot about it after you were done with it.
Yeah.
You were just like, fuck it. And then there was...
Also, it was released as a full-price game.
Well, yeah, that
which,
did help.
you know, compared to the first one, which was a sort of a £30 title, I think, over here, to come out and do release the next one as a full-priced game without... I don't think they added enough to warrant that, but...
And then there was... I guess you could say that everyone... Well, we definitely forgot about Unravel once it came out, because it was like they made a big fucking deal about it at E3, and it was like we sort of knew that it wasn't going to be anything we were particularly interested in, but then it was like, well, I guess that did come out this year.
I guess you never know of a game like that, right? It's got a sort of, in many ways, it's got a sort of animation and feel to me in my head of like Limbo.
Yeah, basically, that's what I was imagining it was probably most like.
It didn't set the world on fire when it eventually came out, unfortunately.
No. You could possibly say the same kind of thing about Trackmania Turbo. Something that we could have been interested in, but it was just like, once it came out, I was like, nah.
Yeah.
Or maybe this needs to be its own category. Maybe we need to have a category for, like, things that we theoretically should have liked, but then once they came out, we were like, meh.
That's in a way, that's a bit like the most disappointing category.
Yeah, but it's not disappointing. It's just, like, not enthusiastic enough to actually care.
Yeah, you know what? We could just scrub Most Forgotten, given that we haven't got any decent nominations for that.
I think we have several on there that are actually Most Forgotten.
Most meh. That's a good one.
What else might go in there? I don't know about any of these other ones. Unless you want to say something that's forgotten because you didn't want to remember it.
Didn't want to remember it.
Like the shitty Ghostbusters game that came out after the film.
In fairness, I'm not sure I even knew about that at the time.
No.
I think I only discovered that relatively recently. That was even a thing. It does look bad, though.
Yes.
Has it had some, like... From what I've seen of it, it does have a hilarious sound glitch where it's like if you get to the state where a ghost can be trapped, like the VO just basically keeps saying all of the there's no gap between like it saying all of the lines of look you can trap it now,
right?
So it's like trap that ghost, we can trap that ghost now, fire out the trapper, it's just like constant until you actually do it.
Maybe we could also put on Most Forgotten something like Homefront: The Revolution. Because there was a moment there where that was looking like it might not be complete crap, but then it was like, yep, no, forget it.
Then it was total crap, yeah. I think in a way that game deserves to be forgotten. It's got some neat premise ideas, hasn't it? Like, you know, the Koreans have taken over.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily a neat premise, really. Just like insert a random...
It's Red Alert 2, but with Koreans.
Yeah, insert a random enemy that takes over the US. Aliens, or even anyone else on Earth. Whatever. Okay. Very good for most of the ones on that.
So left for Battle Ball on The Division, Homefront: The Revolution, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, Pokken. It must be Pokken, right? Not Pokken.
I guess.
Yeah. Pokken. PVZ, Trackmania Turbo, and Unravel. I'm just because I have shunned it so hard, I am siding towards Plants vs Zombies. It should have been something for us.
Yeah, I guess.
Or at least for me.
Yeah.
And I probably could have convinced you into it, maybe.
Or Kippers.
Or Kippers, yeah. Kippers at the very least. I think Kippers did get the X-Bone version. Mm. But I don't think they stuck with it for very long.
Are we actually doing most meh rather than most forgotten?
No, that was most forgotten.
But Plants vs Zombies is surely most meh.
Yeah. We could just give it, like, screw the Forgotten Award and give it an award for most meh.
But most meh is going to have a bunch of other stuff in it.
Oh, really? Okay. You want to do that as well?
I guess.
Okay. So unless there's any better suggestions, Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2 is our most forgotten game of 2016. I forgot what year it was.
Yeah, most forgetting the year.
Probably about talking about forgetfulness. You forget your fullness of words. But all right then. I'm now intrigued by your most meh list.
Well, it's like the important thing to say about the idea of the most meh list would be like, it's not necessarily even saying that a thing is bad, it's just saying that we didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, basically...
Winner of don't care.
It's like you can start... I mean, even beyond the stuff we already put on there, you could probably put on, like, Deus Ex.
Yeah, there was a new Deus Ex game this year.
Like the previous
and I didn't
one,
run
and
out
that
and
one came
buy
out, and we were like, there.
Yeah, I didn't
so
run out and buy it.
Yeah, so what put you off?
Well, first of all, there was some performance things, so it was like, wait until... And it's expensive, so it's like, wait till it's all okay. And then it was like... Nah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the main problem is that the reviews showed that they'd kind of doubled down on like the bad writing, pretty much, which was the main problem with Human Revolution. Like, it seemed like and also, I don't know, I've seen like a dystopian Eastern European city in Half-Life 2. I don't know if I don't know. It just didn't seem to be going in the right direction.
I don't know if every game can basically just cease to exist because Half-Life 2 did it.
Maybe they should. I mean, shooters seem to have, so...
I just didn't think it was like... It seemed in some ways too close to the previous one, but then like not... It's like they didn't do anything particularly new and interesting with it. It was just like, it could have just been an expansion to the previous game.
I mean, the thing that I've seen pointed out is that the original Deus Ex had multiple different themes to it, and there wasn't, whereas Human Revolution, the last one, is that right? Yeah, had one central theme, which was the augmentation stuff. And then this one just did that again, right? It just went further with that one theme. And it was like the cool thing about Deus Ex was it had all the different conspiracies in the world going on. It had it had everything from like...
Well, it was just like, it had all the conspiracies, and then all the conspiracies happened to lead into one conspiracy.
Sort of, yeah, exactly. But it had, it had the bioengineering augmentation theme, and it had the theme that there were old, crappy augments, and then the super cool nanotech new augments. But it also had the kind of nano-engineered viruses thing and everything, and all of that. I know, it had tons of stuff going on.
I've never quite worked out in my head though if that was just because every idea was a little undercooked in the original Deus Ex. Like, there was an undercurrent of things being kind of crappy for a lot of people, wasn't there, in the first game?
Well, yeah, I mean, but you did see it up close.
And there's like a disease or something, and
you saw a lot of bums, as they were labelled.
Yeah,
in Deus Ex.
Yeah, they're never explicitly called out, which is maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing. I'm not sure. It's like it's always occupied a sort of a bit of a messy territory in my head. It's like, don't get me wrong, it's interesting and ambitious, but it's like to me it feels a little messy.
It's definitely messy. That's kind of like real life, I guess. But
yeah, maybe
in a kind of I don't know. I mean, everything was definitely cheesy.
Safe in the new ones.
I think it was a bit cheesy in the first game, especially because it came out 2 years after The Matrix, and it wasn't as cool as like The Matrix. It tried to be like the way you wore a trench coat and sunglasses and stuff, but at least the game took the piss out of itself for that. Like, it had a self-awareness that I feel like these new ones are just a bit earnest. That's all. That's the problem. They're just almost
too self-serious.
Yeah, I don't like. I didn't ask for this and all that stuff. It's like. I don't know, but I'm still interested in playing it just for the gameplay. So, but the fact that I didn't run out and buy the new Deus Ex game does make it a bit of a candidate for most meh.
I kind of want to just to add to this.
Yeah, I've still got things.
I know, but like the way you describe that in a way, then makes me think of, could this be applied to how Zach feels about Overwatch?
Yeah, I don't really understand Zach's Overwatch meh that well. I'm trying to figure it out, but I can't quite work it out.
But does that make it a potential nominee?
I don't think so. It's not really the same.
Not the same meh.
No.
Okay. You don't understand why you don't care.
Maybe. So we could also maybe think about Uncharted 4.
No,
okay,
I want to
no,
play
this is-
that. The only
yeah,
reason I
I-
haven't played that is because I haven't got a PS4. Otherwise, I would
Yeah,
buy that
likewise.
instantly. So
I
that's not
do-
for me at all.
Yeah, I'm with Dan on this one. I definitely do want to play that.
That looked like it was a lot better than 3.
PS4, though.
No, but that's a lot of.
It wasn't
Yeah.
Burnout 3 levels of awesome.
But there's actually
Not
there's
quite.
so many factors to that. Like because we knew PS4 Pro was coming.
Yeah, I guess.
And so I sort of decided not to dip into PS4 middle of the year. Well, in fairness, a lot of it was financial in my case. Obviously, like I went to Japan and like had a lot of outgoings and stuff like that this year. In that respect, so then it was like, oh, hold off for PS4 Pro. And then by that point, by the time it all happened, it's like, oh wait, no, it's end of the year type stuff. There's money involved there.
I think the what are they called? The developer?
Naughty Dog.
Naughty Dog. I think the Naughty Dog games will be the first thing I buy when I get a PS4, along with other stuff. But I'll probably even though it's not a PS4 game, I'll probably get The Last of Us Remastered or whatever. And Uncharted 4 when I get it.
And don't forget, there's Last of Us Part 2 to look forward to.
Yeah, of course. So there you go. I'm definitely not met on Uncharted. Especially the fact that it's done. That's good.
Yeah, I guess. Well, maybe it's done because you know how people will reboot bullshit for like make up a random reason to bring shit back.
Yeah, but the thing about Naughty Dog is they're not like Ubisoft. They can't be just farmed out to another team or whatever because it's just one core studio, right?
I guess.
They're going to do what they're going to do, so I don't think it's going to be like, oh, we've got this hot franchise that we're going to continue, so we'll give that... The main people don't want to make that anymore, so we'll give that to the B team somewhere in Canada or something, and then I don't think it'd be like that. There is no entity like that, publisher like that. Naughty Dog own their franchises, right?
I guess.
Yeah, I
think they
so.
do. So anyway.
But yeah, it's one of those things where I think so, but they get a lot of money help from Sony.
Yeah.
To build it how they do.
And then what about? I don't know if this one is quite fits so well in the mech category, but what about Gears of War 4? Because we just all kind of always thought that was poop, or pooper that it should be. Like it was basically the same as the last bad Gears of War, where that was called Justice. Judgment. That's the one.
So yeah, and I ned on Judgment because the reviews were bad.
Yeah.
Whereas Gears of War 4, it seems like people are sort of back in, right? It's like it's more Gears, but it's good Gears.
Well,
Maybe.
Even if
Jeff
it hasn't
likes
changed
it.
that much. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's a little more widespread than that.
But it never seemed to show
than just
very
Jeff
well.
Gersman. But no, it showed really poorly, right? It's like I wonder if it's one of those things that plays more fun than it appears.
Maybe.
I mean, I teetered at one point in buying it because it went a little bit cheaper on the Windows Store at one point, and I did teeter about picking it up, but I was on. The problem Gears had this year is it was in that horrible release window.
Yeah, I guess.
And when you put it up against Battlefield and Titanfall, I'm not sure it can come out on top. So yeah, it's a good shout, but I was a little closer to actually picking that up, I think, than you guys were for Deus Ex.
And then also, what I guess this is sort of a meh for a different reason. Well, no, I guess this isn't exactly a meh. This is more like a smart purchasing decision, maybe. But like how I went meh about Pokemon Sun and Moon once there was any suspicion that there was going to be a Switch version.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm definitely
Like that was
playing
kind of
Switch version
that was like I made it
awesome.
a bit, and then it was like, oh, that turned out to be a good decision.
Yeah, because normally you'd be all over it. Like,
Well, I don't know if I'd be all over it because that was why it was kind of meh. Because I was like, I played the last one and it doesn't seem like it's been that long. Like Pokemon does keep managing to get me over and over, so maybe I can get away with not doing it this time. And it's like, oh well, maybe if I wait a few months, then I'll be more confused. And it turns out the Switch version might be coming. So good success. So that was sort of meh, but turned out all right.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, you were sort of meh, but you're now hyped for the Switch version. Let's see what they do.
Guess. I mean, it'd be nice to have another Switch game, I suppose.
I'm pretty hyped for
yeah.
the Switch version because I haven't got a DS, or a 3DS.
Yeah, you'll have something
So-
to actually play it on. I
Yeah.
I'm curious to what they will do to it to like make it
Probably not much.
worthy.
Well, apparently just make it run better.
Yeah, they'll probably
If they make it run better, that'd be good.
They'll probably just up the res, won't they? And like maybe some of the textures are.
Well, they did claim that they had higher res assets. Like they.
No, so they've been building it from the
made it-
start.
Did we
Yeah.
discuss because the suspicion is that it'll probably switch res when you plug it into the cradle from 1080 down to 720.
Yeah, I
And
think
it
that's been
might
sort of confirmed. In fact,
Yeah.
like the power rate, like something leaked about how much power it actually feeds through to the how much the graphics chip is actually what capacity it runs at when it's in portable versus cradled.
Yeah,
And it's it's like
It's
40% when in your hands compared to when it's in the cradle.
I think the frame
So,
rate's going to drop when you take it out.
probably, yeah. But still, like for people like me, if I ever wanted to feel like I could play a sit-down Pokemon, suddenly the option's there.
And this is the best Pokemon in years by all accounts, so it's a good one.
Maybe.
It seems like it's a bringing together of ideas they've had before.
Yeah, but they apparently still managed to fuck stuff up that was in the last game for no reason. Where it's like, you did it better in the previous game, and now it's worse again. And finally, for my random suggestions for this thing, which I'm not even sure, this one again might just be a situation of the PlayStation, but like Final Fantasy 15, it was like, were we ever enthused about that? Really?
That's a toughie because I'm again, it didn't show very well.
No.
But and in a weird way, it's not really what I guess anyone really was expecting out of a Final Fantasy game, right? In that it's light on story for once, and but they embrace their open world.
They
road
embrace
trip
bullshit
feeling.
side quests.
Yeah, there's a lot of that from what I've heard. I'm intrigued, but I think I've been sort of burnt by Final Fantasy 13's.
By playing two of them.
Oh, and I'm still going to play the third.
Yes, exactly.
I'm still going to at least see what that's like, because someone very kindly got me a coffee. I say kindly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Vindictively.
Yeah. I think I'd quite like to play 15, but I think I'd want to do. At the moment, it's only on the consoles, and I think I'd want to see what the PS4 version, and like it's one of those things where it's not when games are coming out multi-platform now, and it's like it's well known that the PS4 is the better machine. A bit in my head is going, don't get that on Xbox. You have an Xbox, but don't get it on Xbox. Get the better version when you have a PlayStation. Which is a bit dumb, I know, because there's probably not enough of a difference to really make it a problem.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, it has pro support, I suppose, but
That's true.
I think there's a very clear winner of that.
Oh wait, I forgot one more thing that we could potentially put on here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could put XCOM 2 on there, because even though we did go in for that, we did go a bit meh on it once we actually started playing it. It was just like, well, we're just going to stop playing it.
I think it's all right. I think it's fine.
I think we come back to that as a disappointing, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know if
I'm
that
not
was
sure
even
that
that
fits in the
disappointing
same.
either. I don't think it fits in either of these categories, really.
I think it's pretty good. So I don't think it's meh. I just don't like it as much as the first one.
Oh, right. Don't put that one on there.
Not a nominee. Nominee rescinded. Nomination. I think it's a very clear winner of that group then, by that discussion. That's got to be Deus Ex, right?
I guess.
Ex.
Just because of the... You guys are fairly big Deus Ex fans, and the amount... And you both kind of felt the first game was good, but didn't quite nail it.
Yeah.
And then for this one to
Then
just
it's
turn
like,
you off completely.
Maybe they had a chance to nail it, but then it seemed like they didn't really do anything towards making it that much better.
Sequelitis.
I guess. And also, if you want to talk about other things which may have caused an amount of meh feeling towards Deus Ex, the whole ridiculous pre-order situation.
Oh god, yeah, that was absurd. At least they backed down on augment your pre-order.
Yeah.
But it did have those completely needless microtransactions in the game, where it's like you can get everything you want in the game legitimately, like on a playthrough, but they just add it so you can buy the coins you need to get skill points.
Yeah.
Or whatever, or just buy skill points. Probably it was probably direct.
Yep.
And it's like you don't need to do that. You're just cheating yourself.
It's for people who didn't want to have the hassle of playing the game.
Well, yeah.
People who just wanted to see a story, like Mass Effect story mode.
I guess, yeah. Shouldn't have to pay more for that though.
No.
Should be an option. Okay, so the most meh don't care of the year is Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. Good job, Deus Ex.
Great job.
I'm gonna admit most of these are on the sort of negative side. A lot
Are they
more
always?
this year.
They
So I'm
usually are.
So I'm gonna try and reorganise these to be a little to swap us to a positive note.
Okay.
Because I didn't really write these in any particular order, as usual. So I'm going to shuffle them around a bit. I want to go for biggest or most surprised or best surprise of the year. Because
Some surprise.
Because we can never really decide whether we would like, this is the best surprise or
the
this
most
surprised
surprise.
us the most. Yeah,
Well, that was our discussion about whether most could also include negative surprises.
I guess it. Yeah. So we'll see how we go. Like, I haven't actually got much in this. In that, I think the biggest gaming surprise, in a way, because a lot of this year was like we knew it was the surprises came last year.
Well, it was like a bunch of stuff that came out this year was just delayed into this year.
Yeah. So that, to me, I guess the biggest one in my head is that Doom ended up being good. Because boy, was that facing the wrong direction for a long time. Like the heat off the multiplayer beta had everyone thinking this is going to be poor. Yeah, but then it sort of extrapolated, right? The people saw the multiplayer and thought, oh no, they're not taking this in the right direction at all. And then the single player plays completely differently. And we hadn't really seen any of that other than those very canned demos.
What was the id game before that? The not open world thing.
I'm thinking of Rage.
Yeah, that's the one. Rage. Yeah. I mean, I guess it. I mean, has it made a good game since Doom 3 people didn't even like, and like Rage, I guess people like, but not to the extent of this.
No,
Well,
no, they haven't set the world on fire for a while. Let's put it that. Not a straight up id game anyway.
And that's what the single player of this is, right?
Was it the Return to Wolfenstein series? The last
was that
one? The last Wolfenstein? I guess it was. Well, it'd be id and another developer, right? Probably Raven or someone like that. But it wouldn't have been id. It would have been sort of a combo deal.
But this is id.
This is id, yeah. Id. And I only and my second nomination, because I only learnt about this recently, is that Frog Fractions 2 apparently happened.
Yeah, but you're not meant to learn about that until it happens. That's only a surprise intentionally.
Yeah, but okay, there was a suspicion that there was an ARG that was starting to permeate its way into every indie game, it seemed, under the sun, where there would be bits of sigil added to them. This affected both new and old games. Where people would see a change in the old game and then hunt it down, and it would point towards this part of a sigil, which, when combined, would supposedly form something relevant to. And it was like, "What is this? What is this big game about?" It's Frog Fractions 2, of course it is. And in the end, as a reward for people figuring out all the parts of the sigil and building this thing, whatever it was, the author of the original Frog Fractions just put up a video of himself and his mate eating soup. So it's like, well, it was Frog Fractions, but but this whole thing has been for nothing. And then eventually it was discovered that actually Frog Fractions 2 was inserted in full inside another indie game called Glitter Mitten Grove, I think, which is a fairy management simulator made by published by Adult Swim. And apparently there's a door in that game you can go into, and it just starts Frog Fractions 2. And that's all I know, because part of and I'm not going to say any more than that, because I guess part of the chart is that you go into Frog Fractions 2 not knowing what the bloody hell it's going to do. Mm-hmm. But the fact that that the whole game has been released as part of another game is kind of bonkers.
Were you surprised?
Possibly quite annoying to the Kickstarter backers.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, we have to buy this other game to get this game. But he never said they would get a copy of the game as part of the Kickstarter.
Okay.
It was all about the intrigue, and he didn't ask for that much money. And I don't think he's making money out of sales of Glittermitten, so he's just done it for the lols, which is quite bizarre in itself. I suppose the original Frog Fractions must have been just done for the lols. He can't have made any money off that.
Well, not initially, anyway.
No. So yeah, it actually happened. And I was a little surprised about how it happened. Any other big surprises of 2016 you can think of?
Well, you could say the fact that The Last Guardian actually finally came out and wasn't completely shit.
It's true, but it was everything everyone thought it was. And that it was all the hallmarks of a Team Eco game.
Well, yes. I mean, that was fairly obvious anyway,
Mm.
just from seeing it. Because it looked exactly like them.
But yeah, I guess that's nothing compared to when it was actually like, hey, it's still about last year.
Yeah, I guess.
And The Last Guardian came out. Oh my god!
No one was very surprised by the Switch, given that it was like ill in patent information, mostly.
It's all
No.
leaked all the time.
Yeah, it got so leaked. Not even subtly.
See, this is where you go run into the situation if you were saying most surprise, because then you could start talking about No Man's Sky again. But we need to save that for a different category.
What's the surprise there?
The surprise was that it wasn't anything like what everyone thought it looked like up to the point where it came out.
I wasn't surprised.
I definitely class that as a disappointment over a surprise.
It
It's
was
exactly
the
what I
surprise.
thought it would be. God damn it.
It was surprising how not like what it looked like it was like.
Nice.
I suppose you could argue with the Switch that you could say Nintendo actually did a good job marketing it thus far.
by
Oh,
not doing anything.
Their one thing that they've said was actually very, very good at promoting the ideas of what they're making. If not giving us much detail, but at least it's like the idea of what they're going for suddenly becomes
Well,
super clear, which they've been terrible at for a long time.
I guess, but I don't think it was that difficult a thing for them to do this time. It was like the concept of it isn't actually as complicated as like the Wii U, where it's like you've got this second screen, but it's still attached to the home console, and
And you can still use these Wiimotes, and
you have other people, 5 people, because you can look at 4 on the screen, one with the gamepad.
Yeah. It is simpler to explain for sure. Yeah, but they managed it without words and without a fake golf game.
We'll see if they sell any.
Yeah. Oh, I reckon the Switch will do well.
Well, I hope so.
I'm
buying
the
it.
general buzz around it is way higher than it ever was for Wii U.
I guess that's true. But they're never gonna have a Wii again. It's not gonna happen. I don't think anyone's gonna have a Wii again.
No, probably not. Although the word definitely hasn't hit mainstream about the Switch yet. Like nobody knows about it. But
Well, apart from like the Jimmy Fallon thing or whatever.
What's that? Oh, yeah,
That was like
show.
the first mainstream thing.
yeah, but that hasn't really happened over here yet. I guess. Like,
Yeah, but when
We-
does
we-
anything happen in England at all?
no, but yeah, something.
No
Yeah.
one cares about Europe.
No, well, we haven't had much of a. I guess that'll start to ramp up in February.
Yeah, well, once we hit Gamescom, that will be when we get the Europe news. But that's not in time with the Switch at all.
When is Gamescom?
I don't know. It's usually like late spring. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's relatively early in the year.
I think that's it.
That's it.
I think so. Because a lot of other stuff might have been surprising to some amount, but not like most.
I can't even think just
Like you could well say that it might be surprising that Stardew Valley was incredibly popular in some ways, and that as many people liked it as they did. Where it's like even people who didn't think they'd like it suddenly liked it.
yeah,
But that's not really that much of a surprise, really.
for something that's effectively a Harvest Moon game. to suddenly turn people around, despite there being 1,000,000,001 Harvest Moon games.
Yeah, but like it was precisely not Harvest Moon in the ways that made it more bearable for people who did like Harvest Moon.
I guess that is a bit of a surprise in general. Just how much people have latched onto that thing.
Sort of. I mean, that's not actually that surprising, really. That's just an indie game. That just happens with indie games occasionally.
What about Pokemon Go? Did we know it was? I suppose we knew it was coming for ages.
Yeah. And we did sort of.
I'm surprised that was done by a third party, and Nintendo didn't like jealously guard their IP and not allow that to happen.
That is interesting.
I wonder.
It's surprising
how the Pokemon company actually has control of the Pokemon IP.
So yeah, I mean the Pokemon company.
Within Nintendo.
Yeah. Is it surprising that it got as big as it did, though?
Not
really.
I don't think.
It's nostalgia, like boon from the exact generation of who all had Pokemon Red and Blue.
But it was massive, and it killed people.
Man, it was just like it was well, it's just because it was a GPS game, and there'd only been like one of those before, and people sort of skipped that one because it didn't have a brand. So if you combine the Pokemon brand with the GPS game idea, which is obviously a good idea, conceptually.
There's definitely been other wide games, or whatever they get called. GPS games are a pretty good tag. But yeah, there's definitely been others.
Sure, but not as well branded as Pokemon.
No, for sure.
And it, for the people who didn't know anything about Pokemon, it made perfect sense. It's like you go out into the world and you catch Pokemon. Like literally what you do in a Pokemon game.
It's still an intriguing concept, but it just needed to be more of a game.
Well, sure.
I think maybe that might be why it's sort of there are still some that play it. It still makes news and stuff like that when
Still
changes happen.
Very occasional update.
Yeah, perhaps slower than I think they should be, but yeah, there's still stuff still happening there.
They've only used the first generation of Pokemon, so now we just get 7 more of these games.
Yeah,
year after year.
Yeah, maybe they'll add some mechanics next time. Yeah. All right. So if there's what else? I'm trying to think what came out of E3 that sort of like that happened. I'm like, that's interesting.
You're thinking of stuff that's not literally games that came out this year, but just news.
just new games that sort of propped up. Were just like, oh, that's cool. Like like maybe Last of Us Part 2, but that's not that surprising, I guess. No. It's just a little. Actually, I'm more annoyed than happy that that's happening in a way.
It's like it's surprising that they've decided to make it a direct sequel.
Yeah, that is surprising. The Uncharted spin-off, is that surprising? I guess not really, because they kind of ended Nathan Drake's story.
They finished their main line.
Yeah, but still want to keep Uncharted as a brand. Resident Evil 7 being first person.
That was kind of surprising. Any kind of. Because I mean, after the last Resident Evils, it's just like they were just trying whatever the fuck they could possibly do to make it not shit or different, at least.
Yeah.
Or make people forget what they did the last couple of times.
Yeah. Well, 5 wasn't received that badly. 6 definitely was. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else where I sort of just look like, oh, they're doing that. Wow. It's all sort of, oh, they're making Gwent.
You could be surprised that someone still thinks it's a good idea to make zombie games in 2016.
Although mostly a lot of that is still like either Call of Duty or indie games, right? Or early access crap.
The thing in the PlayStation conference. You remember? That thing that they focused on like at the start and the end, and they ended their conference with it, and it was like, why the fuck are you making another goddamn zombie game?
Days End? Is it called something like that?
Something along those lines.
Man, if that had come out this year, I definitely would have put that in the forgotten category, because I can never remember what that game is.
Well, that's because it did come out.
Yeah.
If it came out and it was good, maybe you would remember it.
Maybe.
Even though it's a zombie fucking game again.
Yeah. Sony obviously hadn't quite had enough of that Last of Us money, but then there's another Last of Us.
At least that's slightly different from regular zombies.
Well, running zombies and lots of them. It's basically Left 4 Dead 3.
If only.
Open world Left 4 Dead 3. In fact, we don't even know if it's really open world. So.
No. Don't actually know shit about it.
Mm.
What if it was like a mission-based, like, zombie evasion game? Sort of like The Run or whatever. Not The Run. What's that game called? Fuck, I forgot. The Club.
Oh, right.
Where it's less about the literal, like, mechanics of the game and more about, like, doing things in a smooth... It's like a time trial, essentially.
Yeah.
That'd be a weird way to make a zombie game different.
Sort of like parkour zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a level, string together the best combo you can in this scenario. Super hot, basically.
Yeah. It's like
Super
a combination of like moving through the environment quickly and killing zombies at the same time for extra points.
It could be neat.
But anyway, that's what we're talking about.
I'll tell you what that game
We're not
is.
talking about theoretical games, we're talking about games that are actually happening.
I'll tell you what that game is.
What's that?
Bulletstorm.
I guess. Except Bulletstorm was a bit more like...
Shooty.
Well, it was like singular enclosed environments.
They could do a Titanfall-style movement, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway. So I guess that leaves us with... the two frontrunners for me are still Doom being great and Frog Collections 2. Feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Frog Collections can be... I don't think we can go with that. I don't think that's necessarily that surprising.
Well, no,
because everyone had suspected for ages that it was going to be an AIG, and then it was.
But the AIG came to nothing.
Well, it didn't really come to nothing. It came to them making it obvious that they were making Frog Collections 2, even in a sort of in like indirect way.
Yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, that it was them behind the sigils, at least.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if the sigils mean anything. I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if that counts.
No, alright.
I don't think you can be surprised about things that are deliberately that hidden.
Deliberately subversive.
Yeah.
That you know are deliberately subversive.
Yeah, it's like, it's actually less surprising when you know that it's going to, because they ruined the surprise for Frog Faction 2 because Frog Faction 1 existed.
Right,
It's like, everyone knew that if there was going to be a sequel, it was going to be at least as ridiculously fucked up in however it happened. They should have just, like, patched Frog Faction 1 to put Frog Faction 2 in it.
Oh, that would have been pretty funny.
That would have been funnier.
Okay, well, yeah, if you don't download Frog Faction, it'll be just a Flash game.
Well, yeah, then that would make it even harder to tell that they've done it.
It's too obvious. It's too obvious.
It's not too obvious.
It'd be very funny if you then said, "Ah, I was there. I didn't actually change it. It's been there forever."
I don't think you could get away with that. I think you probably would be able to tell, like, from the download size at least, if it was in Flash.
Yeah, I suppose. Alright then, so the most surprise
Doom.
is Doom.
I guess so.
Well done, Doom. You're a rare beast.
I am hereby surprised.
I am contractually surprised. So now we're into the fun negative stuff again. Worrying Trend 2016 edition. Not a great deal, I don't think, going super terrible this year in terms of trends. Well, at least not from my perspective, so I might need some assistance on this. I've only got this new trend of Ultimate Edition versions of games offering an earlier release time by a matter of days, as opposed to coming with cool stuff.
Relatively cool stuff.
Being a bit of a thing. I don't know, there was a point in time where limited editions at least felt like they were providing something.
Well, there was a time when limited editions were literally limited, and that's
Yeah.
They've once again, just like with beta and alpha, they've used the word limited in a way that doesn't actually mean what it means.
Well, they don't really call them they don't often call them limited now, in fairness. Like, they're like ultimate editions or VIP editions, I think Forza had, or something, and it was what was it, Infinite's big one this year? I can't remember. yeah, but there's been a lot of crazy additions going about. Watch Dogs 2 apparently had a lot of additions,
As usual,
because Ubisoft can't help themselves. But yeah, one of the things that most of these had in common was that the most expensive version would release like 3 days early, and that was their selling point for that edition. And it's like, that's not really a selling point. I can wait 3 days. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
in some cases, I mean, it didn't really happen like that. But thinking back to SimCity 5 or whatever, SimCity, thinking back to that, when I was like looking at the difference in release date between the EU and America, and it was like, it comes out 3 or 4 or 5 days later, I thought that would actually be a bonus because it would let the server troubles get out of the way, which of course didn't happen in SimCity. But when you're saying you're paying extra money to get into the game 3 days earlier, if it's a server-based game, it's like you're paying money to get fucked for 3 extra days because you're just going to be stuck with shit until they fix it.
Though in theory, there can't be that many people buying that version, so maybe the servers aren't getting loaded.
Wait, in theory?
Maybe. Yeah, it's a big maybe. I guess because they're not limited versions, there may eventually be a game where everyone buys that version, and it screws it anyway.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So there's that. I don't know. It's just a thing, right? Like, whenever we talk about limited editions, I look at the shelf behind me and I go, "Got a big metal cog for Gears of War 3." Yeah, big metal cog. Or the art book from Gears of War 1 was nice. It was a nicely made little thing, like showing off, like, here's this world we've designed. And at the time it's like we haven't really seen any of this stuff. This is next gen. And even the Halo Reach only container. It's fairly ridiculous, but there's all kinds of stuff in there. All kinds of backstory about Halsey and things. Cool things. I like physical things in my limited editions. So that's not a thing anymore. And the other trend, and this is a dumb trend, to be honest. The follow-on to last year's Keiji Inafune nomination is that Keiji Inafune has now released games, and they're all bad. Just a reminder, last year we had the nomination of Keiji Inafune for promising a lot of games that still haven't come out yet. And that's all I got. You got any more sort of like trends of the year that leave a bad taste in your mouth? The Xbox is increasingly cluttered desktop.
I don't know if that's even done.
What about this
year?
What about the console lifecycle situation?
I don't know if that's necessarily a worrying trend.
Trend
really.
kind of started this year.
Yeah. Well, we don't. It does muddy the space about which version of a game is better or worse, even more than normal. Because there have been some cases of pro versions breaking the rules and being worse.
I mean, how many versions do you think there'll be? I mean, there could even be like 3 generations of PS4 or Xbox One, Scorpio, whatever.
What if there's a PS4 more pro?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
New Pro.
Yeah.
New Pro.
Super Pro.
Supro. Let's call it Supro.
Is that worrying? No, I don't know. The fact that you're waiting, you're already complaining about waiting to get the PS4 Pro.
Well, it's like
that's true.
It might be a worrying trend when the next one comes out. When there's more than
Clearly
one
an established trend
upgrade.
because you've got Scorpio going on as well.
Yeah, but that's not a trend
New 3DS.
for each company. That's like each company has one, but that's to keep up with each other. And if that leads to them all constantly doing that, then maybe it'll be a problem.
It does start to break the foundation of what most people think about consoles, though.
Yeah.
Which is the worrying part of this, and I think there is something to this, Dan, in that I think it does start to break the idea that if you buy a console, you know exactly what you've got, and you know exactly that the game you get is going to work in the same way as it does for everyone else, and that's going. And I don't know if I think that's a good thing or not, because that's the foundation of a console. You know that it's going to work. Or there's more of a reassurance that it's going to work. More to the point.
Yep. Exactly.
Like, I can still quite happily find a Genesis, plug a cartridge in it, and go, you know. And admittedly, there's less of that now, but there's still a bit of, I can put a disc in a thing and have it do a thing. And I know that thing's going to behave the same no matter whose Xbox I use. But that's not true anymore. You sort of argue we already have that in place thanks to the slightly extra power in the S.
Tiny bit.
Yeah.
But that's happened before, hasn't it?
More power in the Pro.
I mean, I guess the N64 had the memory freaking pack.
That's a little different though, because that's like a... Or is it? I don't know.
Is it?
Kind of was the same, because it did actually like really affect the graphics in a direct way, and you if you didn't have it, you literally were screwed in some cases.
Yeah, there were some games that just didn't work. Conker, I think, required it.
Perfect Dark was pretty heavy on it, wasn't it?
Yeah, you couldn't play the single player without it.
Yeah. There you go.
And the multiplayer was very limited, but it did function.
Sort of.
Yeah, I think that's a worthy nominee.
Here's a nomination that I've come up with that's really only based on 2 games, but then I realised there was a third game that kind of, well, maybe even 4 games that kind of fit it. But how about the worrying trend of Nintendo not actually knowing what makes their games good?
Well, boy, yeah, there's something to that.
Because they
That's
fucked
not
up
a new trend, is it?
they fucked up Mario and Luigi and Paper Mario by firstly mashing them into one game, which was a bad idea, and then making a new Paper Mario, which was also bad, because they didn't seem to understand how Sticker Star was bad, and they just made basically the same thing again. I guess that's not strictly Nintendo, that's Intelligence's fault, probably. And then you could say the same thing for Mario Maker on 3DS, where it's like, it doesn't have, I can have map connect internet to download maps, and they obviously didn't understand what was good about that.
Yeah, they fundamentally broke that thing.
And you could also say, to some extent, the same thing about Super Mario Run, but that's more of a subtle thing, where it's just like, they didn't really make a very good game.
Yeah, I know we haven't talked about this much, but I played at least the free part of Mario Run just before we came on air.
Yeah.
Didn't grab me.
No.
I don't like it. But then, I'm not sure.
They're not going for us, though, I don't think.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'd like any game that had that simplistic a control scheme, no matter how clever they are with it. I mean, yeah.
I think what you have to do is make
man.
something like high speed and awesome and have super flashy and be like crazy stylish with it, right? I think you have to be something that's bombastic and nuts. And
Because you just want another jetpack joyride.
Well, I want to be more than that. I want to be able to press buttons and have like Pac-Man Championship Edition style, like boy, sort of big sort of numbers and flashes as I do cool things on the, and you know it's got to make you feel good, which I think like my mobile games don't. That's a sweeping generalization, but there's no hook to me in a lot of those games.
I mean, like the Mario Run thing, it's just like it's actually too simple because it's just like. Just playing Mario is pretty simple, but when you remove the ability to control your left and right motion and you're only just pushing jump, essentially, it's like, what is this game even?
Yeah. And ignoring the fact that it didn't run very well on my iPad, because it's an old iPad, let's be honest. So I'm like disregarding that, assuming it had no load times, which were fairly epic.
And just had a black screen with nothing on it.
Yeah.
Not even a loading bar or anything.
Yeah, it's not very slick. That's what I thought was weirdest about it, to be honest, is that the kind of UI stuff is a bit dodge.
I didn't have too much of a problem with that. I think where I had the bigger problem was that it suffers from classic Nintendo pacing, in that if you wanted to have another quick go at the run, there's no way of doing that fast. You know, it goes through the motions that every Mario game does. I can't just go, restart the run, please, and have it go.
Yeah, you want it to be Super Meat Boy fast.
Yeah. And I don't think that particularly works. But then that's what... yeah. The things about... Color Splash is such a bummer. Because it's They seem to have got stuck on this idea from Sticker Star, haven't they? Like, where Sticker Star, they changed the combat system.
But they just got rid of the RPG, essentially.
Yeah, well, they did that in Super Paper Mario as well.
Well, sort of, but Super Paper Mario was basically a different kind of game entirely. It wasn't trying to be an RPG battle system in any way. Whereas Sticker Star was still looked like an RPG battle system, but didn't have any RPG-ness to it.
Yeah, so they did away with its proper combat system then. And it's clear that they haven't learnt from the reaction to that was a bad idea. By making another one with a terrible combat system.
Or maybe they just didn't have enough time to change anything about what they were doing. Maybe they'd already started it soon after Sticker Star or something.
There's quite a gap between Sticker Star and Colour Splash.
Relatively, I guess.
I need to get the cat out of the tree.
Rob is poking his cat out of the Christmas tree.
Oh, just demolished a bit of it.
It sure has. Teach you for having a Christmas tree.
Yeah. Didn't want one, in fairness.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
You didn't want a Christmas tree?
I don't like Christmas. They take up space.
So yeah, basically...
Oh, don't you dare, cat.
You kicked it out of the room and it immediately came back in and just walked straight over to the tree.
Don't you dare.
Now it's attacking Rob directly. The cat has gone into aggro.
Aggroed the cat.
Rob's having to take his headset off because the cable isn't long enough to go over there and poke the cat sufficiently. This is my live commentary of cat happenings.
Amazing.
See, if the tree wasn't here, I'd be able to reach her.
But the cat wouldn't be there if the tree wasn't there. So yeah, like I was saying, apparently Nintendo doesn't actually know what the fuck made those games good in the first place. And it wouldn't be so bad if they didn't continue to make... they could have made games that had those mechanics in that weren't branded the same as these other things, and it probably would have been fine. It's like they wasted the whole Paper Mario thing on these bad games, and the same with the crossover with Mario and Luigi, where it's just like they wasted the Mario, Luigi and Paper combo, which shouldn't have actually been a combo. It was a weird idea.
Yeah.
But they wasted it on a not very good game.
Oh, Paper Jam Bros, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that looked like it should have been good. Maybe it... I'm sure that's done better than Sticker Star.
It's probably fine, but it's just like... It was the same where the last one on 3DS, whatever that was called, Dream Team Bros.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, that was fine, but it could have been there.
Didn't innovate particularly.
Well, I mean,
Oh, God.
Oh, Rob's just beard himself.
Oh, God.
Rob's just beard himself real good.
Oh, my word.
That was all over the goddamn place.
Good work.
It's still going.
I can hear it on the card.
What the hell happened to this beard?
Okay, Rob's just going to leave again. So, Dan, what do you think is going to win this category of worrying trend?
I can still hear the beer.
Yeah, it's still going.
It's foaming.
Worrying trend, this beer.
This beer exciting. Well, is it really a new thing that Nintendo don't know when they do something good, or they don't know how to capitalize on something good?
I guess
Maybe it is.
Well, yeah, but it's not whether it's a new thing; it's a worrying trend.
Fine.
They're continuing to do it. And
are you worried about it?
I think it's maybe
next
getting
year?
Worse. Is maybe what's wrong with it.
Mario Tennis.
Yeah. Okay,
There's
fine.
Mario Tennis Ultra Smash from last year. That was also bad, but they did get Mario Tennis right since the first one.
So, do you think the software library for the new console will suffer from this?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Because now that they're going to be combining like the 3DS developers and the regular developers, it's like so Intelligent Systems are presumably going to be making shit on the Switch. It's like, will they make another bad Paper Mario? Will Advance Wars come back and be bad?
I don't think it will come back.
Well, no, probably not. They're stuck making fucking Paper Mario.
Exactly.
And Pushmo.
Pushmo.
God damn it. Give me Advance
Pushmo.
Wars.
People love Pushmo.
It's like Nintendo don't know what their good games are, not just what makes their games good.
Yep. Concerning.
I don't know. I mean, that's maybe a bit of maybe that's not the most worrying trend because it's been continuing for a long period of time. Just like gradually it comes and goes. Maybe
Fair. Yeah, it does.
like with Zelda, even where it's like sometimes you think, oh, it's going horribly wrong, and then it's like, well, maybe they're recovering it.
I mean,
Like, for example, Link Between Worlds last year, where it's just like, oh, this is actually good. They do know what's good about this Zelda game.
yeah, I don't know if it's different internal teams or what it is. I don't know.
Well, yeah, for the internal ones, sure. The ones that are not like the Pokemon Company and Intelligent Systems and
Game Freak, yeah. So what other contenders? Nintendo not knowing what's good.
Weird console cycles.
Being weird.
Ultimate editions that don't have
editions.
that give you early release. And KJ Inafune and his bad games.
Nah, don't know about that one.
Just stop, KG.
That's also not really a trend. They all came out really quickly. They were all bad.
Yeah. Well, it was more like
That would only be a trend if he
the trend is
consistently
over
released bad games.
of him not releasing games.
That's not a worrying trend. That's a good trend, apparently. Because they were bad.
Apparently. Oh dear.
Yeah, I don't know. I think probably Ultimate Editions is the... And there's other, like, early release fuckery still happening. You could stack on top of the Ultimate Editions thing. Like, early access continues to be completely a ridiculous, fucked up mess in all cases. And beta and alpha continue to not mean anything at all.
So, early release fuckery is the
Yeah, that's what we'll call it.
winner. Okay.
No, Rob's cat's attacking the tree again.
Fuck's sake.
It's going so
You're
well.
done dealing with your house.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. Naomi's kindly decided to pour my beer properly so I can come back.
We've decided that the Ultimate Edition's worrying is the worryingest trend.
The worryingest.
Yep.
No, I quite liked the console cycle argument, but I will go with like the Ultimate Edition thing. If I was to be reductive of it, this comes back to crappy pre-order culture and generally.
Well, yeah,
right?
I was saying that it's also like you could also stack on top of the Ultimate Edition's thing, just like early access still being weird and beta and alpha and still being fucked and all those other things that's all still continuing.
That's all still messed up. Yeah, it's the trend of previous years still carries.
Yeah, it's the trend of just early anything.
We're calling it pre-release fuckery, and that's the trend.
Pre-release fuckery.
That seems legit. All right, so
now Rob's back. He can announce the next category.
well, yeah. So what we got? Ooh, it's got me.
Have you broken your laptop now?
Well, yeah, moved to where I wasn't expecting. All right. So the next category we have is the positive version of the one we've just done. That's the best trend. What do we want to see more of in the industry that's started happening? All right. So what I've got here is first pick. Multiplayer games performing free level updates and stuff like that, leaving all the paid-for stuff to be cosmetic. Now, I know that sort of Rocket League and stuff kind of technically sort of started bringing this back last year, and it's never really gone away. But now Titanfall is doing it. That seems like a big thing.
Well, the question I would ask there is, has Titanfall done it?
They've released a map so far.
Okay.
Overwatch does it as well. Obviously, as well, and they've promised to always do that as well. So yeah, Titanfall. The only bit of stuff you can have is they have paid for. I think it's like banners and stuff like that. I'm not even sure it's skins, but you can get like slightly different models for your Titans if you put down money. And that's it. The rest of the game so far, any updates they've done, any new stuff they've added has been free, and they've said it will always be free. The problem in Titanfall's case is whether it's sold enough that they'll actually make anything new.
Yeah, I guess that is the problem.
But clearly that hasn't stopped Overwatch.
Well, they don't have the problem with population. They got
no,
population.
they got their population, and they're continuing to grow. And it's so they don't really have a problem at the moment. I don't know if they're making too much money on their loot box system. I don't know how that's panning out for them. But all the loot box stuff is purely cosmetic or sound effect based and stuff like that. Every bit of content that will go in the game will be free. So that's cool. Is it not? I mean, you've still got like Battlefield still doing its thing.
Well, they did at least do one free map.
They did at least do one free map, yeah.
But then again, you know, when you only get one free map, it's like that was just like something they didn't finish in time for release.
Yeah.
That wasn't something they necessarily planned.
No, it was probably always there, to be honest. And it's kind of a cop-out map in a way. It's not that interesting a level. It's okay.
I don't know if it's necessarily that different, like unusually bad compared to any of the other levels, really.
No, I mean, but you know, given when you play those levels and you get the blimp, it creates a blimp carcass where it lands. To have a level that's a blimp carcass.
Yeah, but the ones where they crash onto the level are like weird and glitchy at the best of times. Having a one that's been there and is completely stationary and is a fixed bit of map actually makes it more manageable.
Yeah, sure. It wasn't terrible to play either. So, and what's the other one that's still doing? Oh, Call of Duty's still doing its normal thing as well, because Call of Duty doesn't innovate.
No,
not anymore. Yeah. So there's that. There's also the return of the single-player FPS campaign. Sort of championed by Doom and Titanfall this year.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, the only other thing in my head that sort of speaks to like defending that a little bit is maybe some of the Call of Duty games in previous years have been okay, and let's not overlook BioShock and BioShock Infinite.
Yeah, but those aren't single-player campaigns in a shooter. Those are single-player shooter games.
Oh, you want to make the differentiation between a multiplayer game that just happens to have a decent single-player bit?
Yeah, it's like all the Titanfall and stuff didn't need to have single-player theoretically if they just made a lot more multiplayer, because that was what they fucked up with the first Titanfall. It was fine as a just multiplayer game. There just wasn't enough of it. So if they just made a really big amount of multiplayer stuff for Titanfall 2, that probably still would have been fine. But they actually made a good single player.
But Old Doom was a good multiplayer game, and this new Doom is not a good multiplayer game.
Old Doom was a good multiplayer game if you liked that very weird way that the Old Doom multiplayer worked.
Well, it was first. There was no alternative,
exactly.
I guess.
And it was very weird. And because it was first, it was like there was no expectations. Well, you couldn't say it was good because there was nothing to compare it to.
I suppose so. Well, you could say it's good. You could say new things are good, even if there's nothing else like it. It was good that they came up with it.
Maybe. And I'm not sure necessarily if like multiplayer Doom was a thing that they even really necessarily intentionally did.
Not really in the first one, I don't think. I think by Doom 2
sure.
it become a thing. But yeah. Duke Nukem played a big part, to be honest, in like LAN multiplayer.
Sure.
And
it seemed like maybe in like the Doom multiplayer was almost just like a Karnak experiment. It was just something he wanted to try, and it happened to turn out good.
I don't think it's fair to limit this to just being like multiplayer games that happen to have really good single player bits as well. Because Half-Life 2...
You can't say that,
and BioShock, they're like fantastic single-player campaigns, but is there really been anything else in the FPS genre that has been a fantastic single-player campaign? Unless you're throwing Deus Ex in there as well.
Well, you can't say that the best trend is for the FPS games continuing to exist. that doesn't work.
Oh, no. But I think...
And I don't
think... Dan, you alluded to this a little earlier, you know, that it's like... Does it feel to you now like we're suddenly getting to the point where it's like, hey, first-person shooters campaigns, are they getting good again?
Well, I haven't played Titanfall 2 single player. I don't know. I've kind of had the feeling that I wish I could play. This is stupid. I don't like the new Halos, but they don't appeal to me. But I wish I could play a new Bungie Halo. Then I'd be happy single player.
Well, yeah,
if I had
Halo 5 was possibly the weakest of the lot, to be honest. Yeah. But Halo 4 is fine. I don't get the... Well, I'm not sure I fully understand between both of you, like what you have against Halo 4. Halo 4 plays great.
I didn't like the look of it.
New enemies are bad.
And also, like, they finished the story.
Okay.
Like, there's no need to... I mean, apart from money, there's no need to actually make any more Halo.
Well, yeah, agreed. Apart from that.
Well, and not just that they continued the story, but they continued it in a way which somehow brought all the other stuff that they could have left behind back.
And the story and the setting is pretty.
Human in the Covenant somehow.
Yeah, like the story and the setting is pretty important for a single player campaign. I mean, very important.
And they've gone very deep on the novel and Forerunner lore. You know, the stuff that was
not even in the game, where you have to go into a separate app to look it up.
Yeah, they went super deep on that. So, no, that was Destiny that did that. Don't forget. But
no, Halo had the Halo Waypoint bullshit, when like the terminals were outside the game and all that stuff.
Oh shit! Yeah, which one was that? No, that was 4. Yeah, that was bad.
I mean, the whole thing about the Forerunners is they're mysterious and you don't know shit about them. Whatever, like the Halo is a mysterious thing.
It's like in the first 3 Halo games, the Forerunners were basically irrelevant because you cared about the Flood.
Yeah,
and the Flood just happened to have something to do with the Forerunners, and they were on these Forerunner installations. But it was really irrelevant. The
thing about the Forerunners was they the only thing you got to know about them was their architecture and the stuff that they'd left behind. You didn't get to know anything about them or what. The only thing you found out about them was that they needed to get rid of the Flood. And so they built weapons to destroy it.
And a little bit like they had something to do with humans because there was some DNA switch.
Oh, was there? I didn't even know that part.
You could only use humans to activate the library and all that bullshit.
Well, that's why Master Chief is in theory a direct descendant of the line of Forerunners or something like that. And
I thought it was just you're the designated reclaimer. I didn't think I had anything to do with his race or anything to do with
because that's why, like, when the brute guy kidnaps Miranda, because he has to use her to activate the key.
The index. Yeah.
That's bullshit. I don't like that at all.
No, not the index. Or one of the indexes.
Forerunner shouldn't have anything to do with humans. It should be totally not Destiny or any of that crap. And not Destiny the game. I mean, it shldn't be Destiny the...
I think it's one of those sort of like uplift stories.
Yeah, it was
like the
they
Forerunners
seeded the universe or whatever.
Or they were the ones that brought us to intelligence or something.
So what happens when you use the weapon and then kill everyone, including humans? Then what happens next time around?
Well, that's why they built the Ark, wasn't it? Because they had the thing that was outside the range of the Halos, because it was outside the galaxy. So
and they were going to seed the galaxy with more humans after they killed
or themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
No.
This is where the backstory lore gets super confused, because they had rival factions within the Forerunners, of which the Didact is one, and why he's an asshole, and why things haven't quite worked out, and why the Librarian's plan kind of failed, and
like, no matter how big a universe these sci-fi things come up with, they always have to make humans special for some pointless reason. Just because we're humans. I don't get that at all.
Mass Effect sort of avoids that, other than you're a human who happens to be the hero. But they do sort of, everyone says, well, humans are so brash because of their short lifespans or something.
Yeah, I guess. But, yeah, I mean, that's fair. I don't think Mass Effect has...
Mass Effect like plays it as there's something in our nature rather than it being like we're a super powered.
Yeah. Race. No, I think Mass Effect did well in general, sci-fi wise. I thought it struck a nice balance from like hard sci-fi to like space opera. Anyway,
well, even the collectors, you could argue, in Mass Effect, they sort of left those, and the prey. What was it? The prey to prey. Something meaning
whatever.
Yeah, the ancient race. They were sort of left mostly confusing.
Well, it's because they were just an ancient race that got integrated into the computer race, essentially.
Oh yeah, because they were the collectors.
Yeah, they were the collectors.
Because because they got reaped the first time or the last time.
Yes, they got reaped and turned into servants of the robots.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that all sci-fi does that. I'm just saying the best ones avoid it, I think.
Yeah, or at least leave it a little bit mysterious. Don't go into too much.
So what's the third thing in this category? Since we've somehow talked about this
we moved on to other stuff that's not relevant, but it doesn't matter. It's fun. AAA games mostly work now, as in the ports have been pretty good this year.
Maybe.
There's been no super dramatic failures. There's been no Warner Brothers incidents. Unlike what was it, Mortal Kombat X and Batman last year, just being no-goes.
Oh, yeah, I suppose. Don't know if that is necessarily a very broad thing. to say that they all just worked. Maybe it was only just like Warner Brothers. Maybe the trend there is Warner Brothers didn't release any games this year.
Well, it was
as many.
Well, EA suffered before that, didn't they, with Battlefield and SimCity?
Sure.
And then Warner Brothers took that mantle last year. Whereas this year, there's no one really to sort of point a finger at and say, you dropped the ball this year.
I suppose. Not any, like, big games anyway.
No. Which is why I specifically called out AAAs, because there's always going to be problems with the little guys. You can't trust everyone. You can't trust Mighty Number 9. Not that was server trouble, but you know what I mean.
No.
I guess you could argue there's been a few those PS4 Pro versions that we alluded to earlier being a bit shonky is the negative to this, is it? They didn't quite achieve what Pro is about, and in fact may have made it worse in a couple of cases. But yeah, that's all I've really got. Ready for good trends. What else has caught your eye in Trendland?
Trendland.
Trendland.
Come on down to Trendland, where you'll see results in like a year.
In graphs.
Yeah. If we plot
Graph
them, you'll eventually see results.
Yeah, I can't think of any other real
No.
good trends. I don't know.
Good pixel art games. There's always good pixel
Yeah,
art.
if that's a trend, that's an extremely long-lasting trend at this point.
Yeah. There's always a good pixel art game every year. All right, so we need to
Boom.
pick one of those then. So the free multiplayer update trend, good single player FPS campaigns are back, or AAA games mostly work.
Free update seems good.
Yeah,
I would like to see way more of that than there is,
well, yeah.
because there's still
It's still only barely a trend.
Yeah, because both Battlefield, Doom, and Call of Duty are still holding out to these old models. And for Doom to do that was a mistake. Let's be honest. Anyone who bought that season pass for Doom, I'm sorry. Alright, so free multiplayer updates. Best trend of the year.
Boom.
Although, special credit to Rocket League for being part of that before it was a trend.
I think there's probably other things before that.
Oh, sure, TF2 and things like that. Yeah, there's definitely stuff who've done it before, but it's nice to see more people taking up that mantle.
And Rocket League only technically did that. They were like 50% because they still had the cars for paid, and you could argue in some way, Rocket League cars do technically have a gameplay effect. They do have slightly different hitboxes and slightly different turning
I thought
rates.
they normalised all that though.
They normalised it, but they didn't get rid of it. They got rid of like the spikes, I suppose, like the unusually weird ones. But they are still different.
Yeah,
Everyone uses the Batmobile a lot of people use the Batmobile in high competition in Rocket League because it supposedly has the best hitbox.
I thought the Octane was still the go-to.
No, they like the flat cars, supposedly.
Yeah. I wonder if it just gives them a bit more visibility because they're so flat.
No, I think it is something to do with the hitbox.
Weird. Alright. Most disappointing game of the year.
A category which we only need to do one for, but we're going to have to come up with some others.
What's that then?
Well, I'm sort of tempted as well to blend this with my mini group of regretful purchase, which at the moment has only one entry in it.
Well, I mean, regretful purchase is a disappointment, surely.
Yeah, but not necessarily for... Yeah, okay. Well, we'll blend it in and I'll explain why, and we'll see what happens. Battleborn.
Did you buy that shit?
I don't know if that's...
No, I haven't bought it.
I don't know if that's disappointing.
And I haven't
Okay.
played it, but I still like the idea of someone getting a good first-person MOBA right. And Battleborn
But someone
had some of the whole...
It's called Monday Night Combat.
Yeah, but Monday Night Combat is dead, so someone else has to take it up. And we haven't played Paragon, and apparently Paragon is actually doing good things in that space. But even that's kind of third person, and I don't really know enough about it. Battleborn, in a way, like was doing all the things that a MOBA does, but doing it in first person with a bit of that Borderlands snark, whether you love it or hate it. That's what they were going for, and could have been something, and sort of wasn't. And it's weird because most people kind of crap all over it. There are a few critics out there that actually say, you know what, if you ignore all the negative influence from the internet, there's actually a good game here, but it's just not been treated very well, and it was marketed badly, and it was totally hobby grade, and damn you, Randy Pitchford. So yeah, it could have been something, but it hasn't scratched that itch. Nothing has. Nothing has still filled that Monday Night Combat shaped hole.
Not even the sequel to Monday Night Combat.
No. Mirror's Edge Catalyst for just being fine.
I don't think you can put stuff on here that's just fine. I don't like.
Are you
This was more for you
by it?
to
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of a question.
I think when you buy something and it's just fine, it's like in a lot of cases you were expecting it to be. I don't think it's that much of a disappointment that Mirror's Edge wasn't the most amazing thing ever. You went into that thinking like they can't possibly have. It's like, how are they going to get this to work? And it's like, well, they sort of did, but they sort of didn't, and that was sort of expected.
Okay, so you were going into it thinking they're not really going to improve that much on the first game's issues.
Well, I don't know if it was to do with improving on the issues either. It was just like they can't possibly make a game that's actually, I think the only thing that was really disappointing about Catalyst was just that it wasn't big enough, and it's just like, well, that's just a sort of thing that happens all the time with games, really, where you're like, this could have been better if it was just slightly bigger or had slightly more mechanics or whatever.
Or a slightly bigger budget to fulfill its...
Yeah, to make the graphics better or something or whatever.
Well, graphics weren't a problem, were they?
Well, I wasn't talking about that game specifically. I was talking about games in general.
Yeah,
it's like, in a lot of cases, that kind of disappointment, it's like, it's not a major disappointment, it's just like...
You know in the back of your mind someone could have done a better job with this idea.
Yeah. I mean, I could say that a lot about... I was thinking about this the other day.
But that is, in essence, disappointment.
Yeah, but it's not a huge one.
No, okay.
It's not the biggest disappointment. Like, I was thinking about that the other day when I was looking at Planet Coaster and thinking about City Skylines and stuff. It's like, they're good games by themselves, but it's still like... They're trying to emulate a thing that was done ages ago and make it modern, but they still haven't actually managed to succeed in improving the tech of the thing that they were trying to emulate.
The simulation.
They've just made the same thing again, but it looks modern.
Yeah. Okay, so by that logic, do I need to add Planet Coaster and Project High Rise?
No, because they're only these minor disappointments.
Just minor.
You go into it expecting this.
Fine. Okay, that's not in the running then. I will remove that for that reason.
Because you go back to SimCity, that's where you get into the major disappointment, because it was fucking Maxis. They were making a new SimCity game. They already knew how to make SimCity games. They've done 4 of them.
Yeah.
And then they fucked it right up.
Yeah, true. That's an extreme example. So there may be a few more on this list that you may throw the same argument out at then.
Yeah.
But before we get to those, No Man's Sky.
So that's what's going to win, so let's just move on.
I thought this awards were for us, though, not for
it's
the general
how
population.
we feel about it.
Are you disappointed in No Man's Sky, Zach? I didn't think you were.
I wanted to want it.
But I think that was probably it's the same situation where it's like at a certain point you know it's not going to be as good as as a theoretical game that someone could make one day. But it was also. No Man's Sky was probably the most expensive game that I went in for that turned out to be disappointing in that way.
Not as much as you thought it was. Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. I think we had it pegged that fairly early on that
I think so.
It wasn't going to fulfill the hyperbole.
No. Or at least not 100% of the hyperbole. You could tell that the hyperbole was getting like super hyper.
But I
Yeah.
didn't even think it was going to be, quotes, bad. I thought it was going to be what it is. I mean, the thing I'm disappointed about is
I
how
don't think you
it's
know
not,
how bad it is until you've played it.
Well, yeah, it is
Yeah,
what's
maybe.
there bad, ultimately.
I
Like,
think,
in your,
but
in your
the fact
opinion,
that,
we're not sure we got down to that. Is what's there bad?
Well, it depends on like what you actually want, because it's like, and it also depends like how sensitive you are to like seeing where things should have been. Like the whole ship upgrade system and stuff, where it's just like the only thing, whenever you upgrade the ship, you just get an extra cargo slot, and it has absolutely no other effect, and there's no reason to not just get another. When you're
Right. So you think the game is actually telegraphing the things that could have been, and they perhaps pulled?
yeah, or like obvious places where they could have done something to make it marginally better.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. That would be a right bummer if it's like visually you can see they had this idea at some point, but it hasn't made it.
Yeah.
That would suck.
But you can definitely see it with like the ships, because like because there's a system where when you're making modules for your ship, they basically take up one of your cargo slots. It's like you're trading off space for upgrades essentially. And then like there's an adjacency thing where like if you put modules that affect the same thing next to each other, they get a bonus. And so at the start, I was like, oh, that's like the layout of this ship's cargo area affects what modules I can put in next to each other to get the bonuses. It's like, oh, that's a system. But then it turns out that's not the case, because when you're finding crashed ships and like or buying an upgraded ship, you're basically guaranteed to always find a ship with at least one more cargo space than the one you currently have. So every time you find a crash ship, or every time you upgrade your ship in a different way, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to get one more inventory space. And eventually it just fills out the entire window, and it's just a big square. And it's like that, then you've lost the mechanic of like the adjacency thing, because you can just fit whatever you want, wherever you want.
Sure, yeah.
It's not actually it's not a mechanic of the constriction of this space. It's just that you're at the start of the game and you haven't got more space yet.
So there's never going to be like the late game juggling act of, oh, for this ship I need to do this thing.
No,
it's like it's
and
never...
that's why the ships are completely irrelevant, because they're all the same except for the cargo space, and that just goes up over time.
Yes. All right. Moving on.
Yep.
Paper Mario Color Splash, for the obvious reasons we sort of already talked
we already
about.
talked about that.
It's like, oh, but that game still strikes me as a bummer, because they still seem to have got the writing, and they still seem to have got the style,
Yep.
but they just can't make a mechanically interesting game.
Or they don't understand that they didn't make a mechanically interesting game last time.
They've made good games. Their first two games were great.
Yeah.
What a bummer. Best rendered lemon.
And one, if we're talking about best graphics.
Yeah, best rendered lemon in a game. Color Splash. Recore. I kind of had I had faith in this one.
Well, that one was like, it was disappointing in some ways, but it wasn't nearly as hyped ever.
It wasn't as hyped as you expect, but it had remnants of retro working on it, and they were gunning for a game that sort of plays to that Metroid-y style.
Yeah, well,
and they
maybe.
just didn't land it.
I just don't think that when you have remnants of a studio, I personally
Depends
don't think
which
that
half
ever,
of the-
I don't think that ever counts for anything.
Depends which
I think
half
that's
of
just a marketing thing that they're throwing out there to try and get you to think that it matters.
I guess it depends which half of the studio did the thing, right? Like, you could assume that the good half of Infinity Ward ended up becoming Respawn, and that's why we got Titanfall.
Yeah.
This might have been the cast-off side of... Yeah, who knows? That's a bit harsh to say. You can't judge, but you're right. It's a different team. It's not the team, so it's a. But there's just some aspects. I still think there's some good ideas in there, but just didn't execute on them all. Like, the idea of the combat system sounds actually kind of interesting. Like, they've done the Metroid-y thing of it focuses your efforts on dodging rather than the shooting, which I like the idea of. Because it worked then, why can't it work now? I like the sort of... There's some late game stuff in there about how you construct your robots and things like that, and how you can customize them and things that could lead to some depth and some interesting systems there that weren't fully realised. But obviously the worst of... it has technical problems on Xbone, which were a little unforgivable. And, plenty of bugs. And, the late game stuff sounds god-awful. So, yeah, bit of a shame. It's one of those games that I think if it had another year, might have been something.
Yeah, maybe.
Speaking of games that could have been something, Star Fox Zero. Pains me to put it on this list, but I have to. It just wasn't...
That might be...
Still hasn't beaten Star Fox 64.
It still might be another case where it's like, were you really expecting it to succeed?
It had that 50% chance because it had Platinum associated with it.
Well, yeah, because Platinum are the 50% success.
They are the 50% team, yeah. They are these days. It turns out they... When it's good, but when it's bad, it's really bad. The new control scheme didn't really add anything. It was...
And in some cases made it really annoying.
Yeah. But there are parts of it. It did scratch the Star Fox itch. I'll give it that. When it was firing its old guns, it fired them quite well, and it did it with a bit more speed and a bit more plomb. And there's one level in particular that gave me a little bit of a Panzer vibe, and I'm like, ooh, come on, yeah, this is the direction I want to see it go. But never really gets there. It doesn't do the diamond thing right. That Lilac Wars did so well. It doesn't do the multi-pathing thing in a sensible way. It just doesn't quite get to the heights that Star Fox has had. So I'm sat here going, try again, guys. Come on, Ninty. It's hard to blame this one on Ninty not knowing what makes their games good, because they weren't the ones developing it, I suppose. But...
Well, you still had Miyamoto talking about flying under arches.
Yeah.
Which I guess, that's something that technically is good about Star Fox, I guess.
I'm not sure it's even really in the game. Like, that whole thing in in the opening level in Corneria in Lilac Wars, we do that thing where you jink between the archers, and then that unlocks the secret route. That's not even in the game.
But there's a few bridges and stuff that you can go over or under, right?
Yeah, but they don't do anything.
Or do they?
No. No, they don't. The secrets are really obvious.
Okay.
Yeah. Star Fox Zero, what a bummer. Super Mario Run.
I don't think that...
I think we kind of knew that was
I don't think
going to
that
be what it was.
Going to have much expectation on it.
Yeah. You kind of want it to be great because it's Nintendo's first proper foray into mobile, but it wasn't. Well, at least from what I've played, it doesn't. I'm not interested. Super Pokemon Mystery Dungeon?
Right. What? No. Why?
No, because you were again just fine. You didn't quite didn't iterate enough on the first game.
It was a very direct sequel. It was basically the same game again.
Yeah,
but that was fine.
All right.
I mean, the stuff that
they
did do to improve. Well, no, I don't think I had story problems.
Just that it wasn't as good as the first one.
Well, no. I mean, the stuff that they did add to it to improve it did improve it. I think my actual story problem with it was that it was basically exactly the same story when it came down to it.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember you saying that, yeah.
I mean, that's not even necessarily a problem. And it was kind of interesting to see, even though it was essentially the same story with basically the exact same beats, it was interesting to see that it was the same beats, but it was still a different story fitted into those beats. So it's this is kind of weird. I know exactly what's going to happen, but how is it going to happen?
Yeah, okay. A bit fit the formula too well.
But it wasn't bad or anything, really.
Fair enough. I have scrubbed that. And possibly contentiously, XCOM 2. Because you're kind of down on it, Zach, and Dan's kind of okay with it, is my general sentiment over the year.
Well, again, I don't think this is going to... This isn't higher than some of the other things on this list in terms of disappointment. It's if you're disappointed about it, it's mostly the same situation of seeing where they missed opportunities to actually make it better than they did.
And, shooting through floors.
Well, sure. But that was like that was technically something that they didn't do. It's like they didn't fix it from the previous game, essentially. All the line of sight problems, and it was just like made worse by the modular level design now.
All right. So where do we sit then?
Wait, was there anything else?
No, not on my list. If you've got more, please add.
I was thinking, well, we're doing most disappointing, right?
Yeah. So yeah, as you may have told, this category doesn't necessarily apply to games that we've played. It's just like because they come out, you see the reviews, you get to watch a quick play of something that people have done, and then you make a snap decision, and then that disappoints.
I would be tempted to say like
Pac-Man Championship Edition 2.
No, not really. That was just like a cheap sequel.
Yeah, that kind of is what it is.
I would be tempted to say something like maybe Roller Coaster Tycoon World, but that's not really disappointing as much as just being disappointed in the fact that it continued to be shit forever. Like it never became a good game, and then they just shitted it out.
I guess we were expecting it to be bad.
Yeah, that's the other problem with the most disappointing category is when you have a bad thing and you expect it to be bad, but it's not actually that disappointing when it's bad.
No, your hopes were already dashed. Boy, that thing is bad, though.
Yep, sure is.
From what I've seen of it. Spline-based coaster building seems like a neat idea, but, the rest of it. So, we're down to No Man's Sky, Battleborn, No Man's Sky, Paper Mario Color Splash, Recall, Roller Coaster Tycoon World, Star Fox Zero, Super Mario Run, and XCOM 2. As legit disappointments.
But there's no actual discussion about what's going to win, though.
You reckon?
Come on, I mean, nothing is ever going to beat that ever in any disappointments. And I don't.
Were you really that hyped for it? I can't believe you were that hyped for it.
I'm not saying that it's like necessarily the most disappointing for us. I mean, no, it probably is the most disappointing for us out of those, even.
Yeah.
All right, so hang on. Let's blend in what I mentioned before, the regretful purchase category. Does No Man's Sky kind of does it irritate you a little bit that you went in?
A little bit,
yeah.
But just because it was a full price game, that was like a mistake really on their part. They should release it for a cheaper price.
Because my entry in the regretful purchase sort of concept would have been read out, in that I probably paid too much for what that is.
Yeah, but I
know you shouldn't really judge things by the money you spend, but there's something about that game just never. I've put a lot of time into it now. I've put like 11 hours into it, but there's something about that game just feels like, okay, this isn't quite what I want from an AG racer. And
I don't think that was even that disappointing either because
it was a punt.
Well, yeah, and because you sort of already suspected that it might not be as good as you wanted it to be.
Yeah. I'd heard good things. Was my guide on that for a few outlets or fans of AG races said it was the bee's knees. And I thought, well, let's get in on this then. Let's give it a go. And it wasn't quite the bee's knees.
Because it's like, even if you're talking about most disappointing for us, it's like, you've got Battleborn is irrelevant to us. That's not even...
All right, let's take it out then. Well, it's only relevant in the sense that it didn't fulfill my MOBA needs.
What I'm saying is, are we going to... is this literally going to be most disappointing for us, or just things we were most disappointed with in general?
It's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
It's not exactly, though, because if you're saying about most disappointing in general, it could be things that we haven't actually played and just are disappointed in what happened to it or whatever.
That's a bit both. I think that's all the sort of same idea, really. It all has that same feeling of ugh.
Yeah, but in some ways you can't, like, for things we haven't played, we can't be sure that those are the most disappointing because we haven't actually experienced them to know whether it's as bad as we think it is.
No, but you can be disappointed without having played something. It's like hearing a review of a film like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being bad, like, and for all those people that really wanted a good nostalgia trip with Turtles, and then hearing that Michael Bay has taken over it, that's a disappointment. You don't have to see the film for that to be a disappointment.
I mean, clearly, like, if we're talking like that, yeah, I still don't think anything is going to be worse than No Man's Sky. Even Colour Splash. I think Colour Splash is the closest.
Colour Splash is a real bummer. I'll get because I I think I got more hyped for Colour Splash than I did No Man's Sky.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because the
Because of the lemon.
yeah, because of the lemon, because of that one specific thing that looked really cool, and it was like, okay, that looks really cool,
The thing powers.
and
yeah.
then as it turned out, there was no mechanics.
No, there's no
And
mechanic
again,
to it. And it was totally random. Yeah.
That's basically exactly the same situation as No Man's Sky. It looked really cool, and then when you actually saw the mechanics, it's like, oh,
No.
fuck.
But I don't need to play that to make that decision.
Sure. But that's why I think No Man's Sky is worse, because it's just like,
Because you did play it.
well, and because what they showed, we'll talk about it again later on, I expect. But what they did show technically showed stuff that wasn't real.
Yeah, that first trailer, that first gameplay trail is the worst offender by a long way. All right, have you got any arguments, Dan, against any for or against No Man's Sky?
Not really. I don't have. Yeah, I get that if you play it, then you'll be more disappointed. I mean, the thing that disappointed me about No Man's Sky, despite all the promises and everything, I mean, the main thing was the variety in the creatures and worlds. Basically, I wanted it more Spore-like, where there was kind of... But because I don't think there's that much, although I guess Dwarf Fortress is an example of where, or even Minecraft, of where procedurally generated stuff can generate stuff that's interesting again and again and stuff. But it seemed like those creatures, like, there's really only 15 kinds of creature, right? And then there's slight variations on them, and that's kind of not what they promised. And I think,
and also just like,
that's not really possible to make a totally crazy creature, except you could in Spore, because it was done by people, and then it was crowdsourced,
like in
basically.
Spore, it kind of didn't matter.
Yeah, and and their engine could animate them.
To some
Like
extent.
mostly okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty
They
clever.
basically, No Man's Sky basically needed the Sporepedia,
Sure.
But
and it probably would have been a better game.
I mean,
But
yeah,
then
more
the other
creation
problem
stuff,
with, like, No
potentially.
Man's Sky's
I don't know.
The other
Not
problem
there
with
isn't
No Man's-
any. Yeah, go ahead.
The other problem with No Man's Sky's creatures was that they, like, even if there are 15 kinds of creatures, there's basically only actually 2 kinds of
Yeah.
creatures, like herbivores and carnivores, and that doesn't even vary at all either.
At all either.
It's like ones that are going to try and attack you or not.
But it's not about whether for me, it's not about whether it matters to the gameplay, really, because it was never a game. In my opinion, it was always a look at all this. Look, I go to this place and it's totally different, and no one's ever seen anything crazy. And then I go to this
that's
other
one
place.
of the most, in a weird way, it's like I can never reconcile in my head whether that was a super appealing aspect of that game or not. Like I really like the idea in theory.
Yeah.
Of just if the universe is that vast and that well realized, to just turn up somewhere and be like, oh, I've never seen this before.
No one's
That
ever
is
seen this
bonkers.
before. But in
Yeah.
fact, you have. You've just seen it's a slight variation or combination of things that you yourself, not even people in general, have seen multiple times before if you've played it for any length of time. Well, that's the suckiest
I've seen a
part for
green
me.
budgerigar instead of a blue budgerigar.
Yeah, exactly, or whatever. So that, I mean, and it's obvious, even without having played it, that there's only there's only 15 kinds of carnivore or whatever, because you see the same ones again, and it's like, yeah,
They
this
move
one's
in
got,
the same way and they behave in the same
Yeah,
way, but
and it's like-
that guy's got a slightly frillier face.
yeah. So that's the sad part for me. The fact that
In a weird way,
procedural
what they've done
generation
is they've-
can't even do that much cool. I don't know, because like at least in Minecraft, like the caves, they may look the same because textures are all the same stuff, but no one's seen that cave before. If you dig down or whatever, I
They're
don't
on
know.
the same seed.
Unless you're on the same seed, yeah. So meh, disappointing. Should win.
No Man's Sky is the most disappointing game of 2016. Zach called it. Everyone called it. Yeah.
The entire world called it.
Not soon enough, though, it seems.
Well, I guess.
Alright. Best Original Music of the Year. So I'm looking specifically for either the entire soundtrack or a specific bit of a soundtrack, but it has to be unique to that game. It has to be been written to that game, not licensed. Those are the only rules I apply to this.
Okay.
It can be from any game, played or not. might be tricky for us to do unless we can sort of play examples or get hold of stuff like that. So.
Well, this is what we happened last year, which is like at some point we just have to agree to pick one.
Yeah.
Irrelevant of whether we actually know them.
So
hold on, because I've got something that's like a. I don't know. It's a song. It's a traditional song, I suppose. So it's not written for the game, but the arrangement is for the game, and like it was made. I don't know.
It could work, I suppose. Like, is it in the same breath as that? Like, if someone made a cover version of a song for a game,
yeah, kind of, yeah.
All right, well, I'll allow it.
Yeah. Anyway, what are your noms?
I have 3 nominees. The obvious one being Doom. Because, boy, that soundtrack is bonkers and awesome and fits perfectly with that game, and there are parts of it you really can listen to outside of the game and just headbang. It's quality stuff. Such a unique sound. Yeah, quite enthusiastic about that, but it's just so mental. Overcooked. Because I really like that basic kitchen music.
You like your French kitchen music.
It's got a bit of accordion in there. It can't go wrong. It's really catchy. Ends up in my head. And also, I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure about this nomination. But if there's any bit of music this year that has got properly wedged in my head, it's been the Overwatch music. And I don't even really think it's that good, but it just has wormed its way into my head. It just can't... Yeah, the tunes are always there. They follow me.
I guess. But I've seen a later category where that's more important.
Yes, sure. Yes, that's what I've got, really. I don't think it's been... I mean, I am tempted to nominate Owlboy because what I've heard of it so far... I've only played a couple of hours of that, but from what I've heard so far, it's pretty good. Kind of like a bit of a Dust vibe to it. But better produced than Dust. And sorry, Hyperduck. Like, I do not mean to throw some shade your way, but... Yeah, it's quite well done, quite swelling, quite adventurous, quite moody, and where it needs to be. But I really want to play the rest of that game, I think, before I can consider it seriously. But from what I've heard so far, I'm quite impressed. So maybe I do put it on here, sort of preliminary, sort of, just as a note, just to say it got nominated. Notably, I'm not putting Thumper on here, because I'm not 100% sure I can call that music. It's integral to the game, but it's not... Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with that a little bit. But any idea? Any more for any more?
What does Dan say?
Well, I was just going to say that the Civ 6 score is pretty good. It's not Papa Yes.
I did think that would be the one you were talking about.
I mean,
you said like classical relation and stuff.
I mean, the fact that you can play for fucking 50 hours and not want to switch it to something else is pretty impressive. And how it works is, I mean, you've played it, right? You haven't played 6, I suppose. I don't know how it works in the old ones, but anyway, it
sort of works.
It works really well
after a while, but
I haven't turned it off. I really like it.
But it took me a really long time to get to that point. In fairness, like
I think it's the same guy, but he's obviously. But the thing is, it's got like themes for different civs. I don't know if it did that before.
Yeah, I think it did. I think you'd hear more sort of, especially if you were playing. It was super noticeable if you were playing Japan, for instance.
Yeah, but you don't just get your own theme. You get the themes of the civs that you're playing with, kind of blended, and that's kind of cool. And it does it in a really like not at all jarring. I don't know. I can't tell when it switches between the tracks or whatever. So it's obviously quite clever how it works. But the I like the theme for the English civ. It's a variant of "Are you going to Scarborough Fair?"
I probably could have predicted that.
And it starts off quite sort of quaint and country, and then it gets really sort of more epic than you'd expect for that tune. Naturally, to reflect the kind of massive British Empire that you get to, I guess, with England. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. But it's not, I don't know, it's not like a Red Dead level of score. Anyway.
Yeah. Not much is.
No, that was fucking awesome.
The Victoria theme music, you say?
Don't listen to it now.
I think we can listen to it now.
No, it's probably quite long. I don't know though.
It's 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't play it through the speakers into the microphone. Come on.
We don't have any choice.
Yes, we do. Not doing it.
It's going to be...
judge it.
But we don't need it recorded into our podcast.
How else are we going to judge it?
Of course, it's
through headphones, ideally.
freaking long and ambient, isn't it? Because it's for
and also that's not
for a board game.
You can't just skip to a random bit of it and hope
No,
to
but you
hear
can get a feel of how it fits with the game. So
this is a terrible bit of podcast.
So this plays in the background, right?
Yes, as it is right now, except in the game you can actually hear it.
Yeah.
It'll carry.
It's better in the game.
I don't know why you're being such a bitch about it, because literally other podcasts have put phones to microphone to get that point across, and it works just well enough.
I don't think it does in those cases either. I think that's just a real bad bit of podcast doing. Record anything through the microphone.
How else am I going to hear what he's talking about?
You don't have to. We just discussed it. You don't have to do that for this thing. We just have to be.
It's audio.
We just have to be infused enough to convince other people to agree.
Don't agree.
Because you're not going to listen to all the rest of these, are you?
I've heard the rest of these.
You're not going to listen to, for example, any of the Stardew Valley soundtrack. I mean, that was all good.
Oh, I've sort of heard a bit of that already. So
sure, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I put that in the same category as like when we talked about Terraria that other year.
Right? Yeah.
It's good background music, but you know, it's one of those things where it's like you're not really listening to it most of the time because you're thinking.
Yeah,
and you're concentrating on just playing the game. It's just or Infinifactory, where it's it's just good background music. You can sometimes realise that you're listening to and be like, yeah, this is actually a good tune.
It's quite nice.
It's getting into my head, and then I'll remember it in a couple of days and remember the tune. And what was the other one I was looking at? Shit, I've already forgotten. Whoop, shit. Don't score like that game. Phone game. There was another one.
It's a game of phone.
You're not going to put Amplitude on there, presumably, for the ones of the Amplitude soundtrack that are actually original.
My problem is I can't remember enough of it, and none of it is actually original. It's like it's all.
Well, some of them are remixed for that game, at least.
Kind of, but most of it is pulled in from community members and things like that. Like people who kickstarted the game.
Makes it original, I guess.
It wasn't written for the game. A lot of these were submissions from people, like randoms.
Oh, I remember what the other one was. You put speedrunners on there, I guess.
You reckon?
Because that came out this year, and I mean, I think I preferred it when there was only that one track. Because that one track is the first track is easily the best, and it's just like it's so appropriate for the
it fits the mood of that game, right? And the sort of
the trumpets, the transition when the first person dies and it gets all dramatic.
But it's quite ridiculous. That trumpet noise is quite ridiculous, though. But I don't know if it's the best or worst audio thing, if I'm honest. We were playing it last night, and Dan did go, "What is that?"
It's a sound effect. It's a terrible trumpet sound effect. It's not that bad.
Maybe that'll come up in the audio thing category.
Could do. And I'm very specifically, pointlessly going to not say Planet Coaster for this category because that comes up later. Because I don't think the music counts as music. Exactly,
no, I don't think the music on its own stands, but it's little tricks.
Yeah, the music is more like an audio thing for Planet Coaster.
Its little tricks are better than the music that it's tricking with.
So that comes in later.
Yeah. Come on, guys, it's got to be Doom. It's got to be Doom, man.
Okay, it's Doom.
Well, this is one where you and Dan have at least both played that, so that's one that you can make an agreement on.
Yeah, I guess you would have heard.
And I'm not infused about the other ones. to think that they're going to win.
In fairness, yeah, I think they do use the sort of like main sort of metal-y themes in that. In the opening
Doom
of Doom.
music is a classic if you're talking about like Doom 1.
Oh yeah, but
they wanted to live up to their.
Yeah, they sort of do. They do take. I do love how they sort of take some of the ideas of the old Doom, and even there are even certain bits where they blend some of the old themes in a little, but it's really very only a little.
They don't just literally go.
No, I think there is there's a sort of fake. There's a bit in Doom where there's like a fake what do you call it? Candy Crush style game that you can find, and that has the original Doom music play. And I think it might do that if you find the Turkey Puncher machine as well.
Because that was in like Doom 3 as well, wasn't it?
What, the Turkey Puncher?
The shitty arcade right at the start. They had, I think that was still a Turkey Puncher machine even then.
Probably was, yeah. This was Turkey Puncher 3 or something.
I expect if we didn't think it was just exactly the same, you could say Pac-Man Championship Edition 2. But that's basically, they've expended the enthusiasm for that one on the first game, where it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't say I've heard the soundtrack to that.
No.
Don't.
I expect it's very similar, if not literally the same in some cases.
I know music is kind of a personal thing here, and I do like Dan's suggestion of Civ, but because it has it's in the same way as what you've been describing, really, isn't it? It's sort of the perfect background music for a game of that style.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if did we split it between Infinifactory and Splatoon last year, or did we just go all in on Splatoon?
I don't remember.
Because Splatoon. I'm actually checking that.
Yeah, you could look it up and find out if you could.
We did give it to Splatoon in the end. It was between that, Infinifactory, and Ori, because Ori's music was really good. I think there's going to be a bit of that. Ori and Owlboy are probably going to share a lot of the same ideas.
Right.
I think, judging from what I've heard so far. I'm willing to do a split between Doom and Civ 6 just because of the. Admittedly, I haven't heard a lot of Civ 6, but I can judge if I'm judging it based on Civ 5.
But it's like you always need separate categories for like best music and best backing music.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
So we don't do that, so we'll just make it a split. That's fine. We'll just move on.
The thing for me with Doom was that it hits you in the. Do you remember when I talked about DMC and like one of its most fantastic things is that Noisia soundtrack, and it's so well suited to that game, and it's very rarely I think that about something. I'll look at Titanfall and go, your music it sort of fits, but it's not that special, right? Overwatch's music isn't special, but it fits incredibly well as well, I guess. But it fits way better than you'd expect, and is way catchier than you expect. Battlefield. I don't like their new version this year. Let's be honest.
Well, at least it goes back to the original.
A little bit more original, but it means even less than normal in that game. I don't know.
I just don't think it's a very good version of their idea of remixing the original Battlefield. I feel like they could have done it a bit more fancy for the 1918 style.
Saying that, I quite like that bit of Battlefield music where that's sort of the Arabian themed sad music. Where there's like that lady warble.
Yeah, I guess.
That's quite a good bit of music. But then it's probably a bit cliched bit of music for that, sad warble music. Doom and Civ then, mate, for now.
Yeah, I guess so.
We'll never settle that one unless Dan's happy with it going to Doom, but we won't know. Doom. All right then.
Crash.
Orb.
Welcome to go through the arena. Jump to reach the arbor.
Forgotten about that too.
Jump here to reach the arbor.
in that ridiculous voice. The Zachary Burgess Most Time Award.
I don't know why we're doing this, because it's always impossible to even remember.
Go with your gut, man.
Try and look it up on Steam.
Yeah, except it doesn't work, because I was telling Rob earlier, it doesn't work because, like, Starbound came out this year, but I played it a bunch before it came out, and it's like, does that count? And how much of that was this year, even?
Yeah, there's no way of actually tracking it using Steam itself, except for games that came out this year. Thanks to Early Access. Thanks, Early Access.
Yeah, fucking up our podcast.
Yeah.
Access.
Access. I don't know. I it depends whether or not we're including games that we've played in it as well. Like, is it the most time across, or do we do individual time? We've done like individual time spent before, but yeah. But I normally coin this the Zachary Burgess most time because you have the most time and you spend the most time.
Well, I think we only did it that way because when we combined them individually, it didn't matter what your ones were because my ones were always more.
Yep, we always got eclipsed. So from what I've seen, it's probably a toss-up between Factorio, Planet Coaster, Rocket League, and Starbound.
Yeah, what? You just like what? You need to make this a little better defined because Factorio hasn't come out, so does that still count for this category specifically?
Yeah. It's most time you've spent in a game this year.
And Rocket League came out last year.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not limiting it by that. It's most time you've spent.
Well, in that case, it would just be Rocket League.
You reckon?
Well, yeah.
Clearly the most hours you've spent on any game this year.
Well, considering it didn't go out until quite late last year, and we've continued to play it for this entire year.
Hundreds of hours.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I think even in my case, it's Rocket League.
Yeah, probably.
Although Overwatch, I'm not sure it's that far behind. I've played a lot of Overwatch.
Well, Overwatch has the Team Fortress effect. Well, I guess Rocket League has it too, but it's more in Overwatch where it's the Team Fortress effect where like you just play a round and you think you just play another round, but then you forget that the rounds are like 20 minutes.
You just keep going. With Overwatch, I just keep going. Like, Overwatch games are pretty short.
Well, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Not as short as Rocket League.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. They're not like the 6 or 7 minute blitz that you get out.
In Rocket League, you forget how many rounds you have played.
Yeah.
In Overwatch, you forget how long the rounds are.
Yeah.
In Overwatch's case, it's like Team Fortress, where it's like you forget in Team Fortress that the rounds can be literally an hour.
Yeah, they can go long. They can really go long in Overwatch. Especially if you've got like especially on a like a really tight King of the Hill game where it's like both teams have reached 99%.
Yeah, double overtime.
And the overtime never ends. Yeah, it's tense.
But you don't have a woman shouting overtime.
Overtime. Yeah, you do. There is a woman that shouts overtime, but she does it once. that bug doesn't exist. Overtime. All right. So the Zachary Burgess Most Time Award is once again Rocket League. I say once again. I don't know what it was last year, but
probably not Rocket League. We probably hadn't ramped up enough time by that point.
No, apparently we both put in for Rocket League last year.
Oh, okay.
And then put in for GTA 5.
Maybe that was because we combined like our time for that, whereas like we both spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah. What took your time this year, Dan? Probably Civ, I guess. Now, like that probably took over. Did you replay GTA? I can't remember this year.
I did replay it at some point. I think it's probably Metal Gear.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
it's a good shout. Just put a lot of time in Metal Gear. It's like, did you get as far as 100 hours in that in the end?
I don't know if I got that quite that far. Anyway, for me, it was quite a lot. I like that game. Game of the year should be last year.
Yeah, looking back, we should have considered it more, but I hadn't touched it.
We did. It was like top 2.
It was high up.
We did
it was high
consider
up.
it.
Yeah,
better than any games this year. Anyway, sorry.
Ooh.
Get to that. Definitely. Ooh. Come on.
Not even close.
Yeah,
absolutely. No doubt about that.
All right, Zach's new category idea coming up now. The Ridiculous Brand Action Award for the dumbest use of a game's branding.
Yes. Not for brands within a game, which is something that we wish we could have a category for, because
Chief Beef would win.
Yeah, because it's Planet Coaster and all its hilarious fake brands.
Yep. And the Cosmic Goo. So, Ridiculous
Did I tell
brand.
you about the pizza one?
Pizza Lente.
Yeah, no. We're in the winter patch when they patched in a pizza shop.
Oh, I think you did. Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about it on air.
Well, it's basically it's another sub brand of Chief Beef, the pizza shop. But
Oh, yes, you did.
I
tell
guess
me.
they couldn't call it Pizza Prison, so it's called Pizza Pen, which is like I get what you were trying to go for, but that kind of sucks. Should have just called it Pizza Prison.
Has it got a symbol? Is it like a pizza in the shape of a? Like,
Well, it's a pizza with like
holding
a thief mask.
pizza pan.
Does it
Unless
have
that's
to
just
be
an alliterative.
alliterative?
Chief Beef.
Yeah,
Chief Beef isn't alliterative,
It's not
but
doesn't
No.
have to be alliterative. It
Well,
just has
it,
to be
it technically it is, but
it's rhyming.
yeah,
yeah, I
rhyming
think
or alliterative, I suppose. One or
it's
the
a
other,
form
or
of
both.
alliteration. But yeah, but it could have been like Jailhouse Pizza or something. I mean, why? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you
Come up
had
with
Hot
something.
Dog Squad, which that doesn't really rhyme.
Yeah.
That's more of a rhythmic thing.
Yeah.
It just seems right.
Pizza Lente.
No, it's Mexican.
Excellent. There we go.
If it was pizza, then that would be different.
Pizza Lente.
So yeah, those are brands that we're not talking about in this category.
No.
In this category, we're talking about
Poor
people doing weird things with their brands.
Yeah, poor use of existing brands. Battlefield 1.
Come on, it's the
Because
Paper Mario thing again. Just do that, surely. Stop
What's
screwing up
Paper
Paper
Mario
Mario.
Or Paper Mario Color Splash.
Yeah.
Is that a terrible name?
It's the naming. I thought it was poor use of existing brands.
But it's not really.
It's not really use of the brand, is it? That's bad. It's just that the game is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's slightly different. I think that's like just how you that game portrays itself as a Paper Mario game. That's fine.
So we're talking about marketing.
You kind of
Not exactly. Well, it's just like making bad decisions about the branding of your game in some way, I guess.
Oh, right. Oh,
So Zach
okay.
has a problem with the one.
Yeah,
in
I even have
Battlefield
a problem with Battlefield 1 being called Battlefield 1 because A, that's dumb.
It's
Because
fine.
it's just like one. No game is ever one unless it doesn't have a number on it, in which case it's implicitly one. You
fine.
can't suddenly call a game one because that.
It's bold. I'll give him
It's
that. It's
different.
bold.
You just want
Yeah.
to do
It should have just
something
been called Battlefield I.
different.
That would have made sense from the World War One context when you would have maybe seen a Roman numeral going around.
That's still
I think it
one.
made sense for them
It's
and it
still
worked for
one,
them.
but it's like it makes more sense.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
I mean, you're the only person I know that doesn't like that branding decision.
I also
like
just think
everyone
it
seemed
looks
to be
dumb.
pretty pumped by when it
Battlefield
was
1.
first announced.
Still could have been 1980. I mean, come on.
They get away
That
with
would
it.
have been
'Cause the first game
boring.
wasn't Battlefield, was it? It was Battlefield 1942.
Yeah,
Well,
but
that's
that's
how
why
they
this
did
could have
it.
been 1980.
Yeah, but that would have been boring. And that's why they did this way to be different or whatever. And apparently it
It's not
worked.
cool. It's not
They-
cool at all.
They were trying to be cool, I guess.
They
They should have-
I don't think it's bad. I think it's fine.
No, I think it's all right. It grew on me. I think it was dumb. I thought it was dumb at first, for sure.
I think it
definitely grew
fits
on me.
with the game not really being very realistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So what else we got? We've got Pokken.
because that's just funny. More like that's just a weird decision to be like it's like Tekken, but it's got Pokemon in it. Pokken.
It does seem like the laziest form of blending those names together.
I mean,
doesn't it?
unless it is like a weird translation of some Japanese thing where it makes more sense that from Japanese or something.
Yeah, maybe
Like-
it means something. I don't know. Pokken.
But it was just pretty funny, where it's just like, let's just mash these two things together in a weird, lazy way. Even though it's not got anything to fucking do with Tekken, really. It's
No,
just
it
like,
doesn't-
it's a
doesn't
fighting
play a
style,
lot.
kinda.
Doesn't play a lot like Tekken, but yeah.
And it's not made by someone from Tekken.
Well, it sort
I mean,
of is.
kinda,
It's made by Namco, right?
But that barely counts, really.
But they were probably busy on Tekken 7, or whatever it is. Is it
Yeah.
7? Yeah, it is 7.
I don't think that really counts. It's not like it wasn't like Street Fighter Cross Tekken or anything, where it's like, that's literally them trying to mash two things together. It wasn't like the Pokemon Company and Namco said, hey, you've got Tekken and we've got Pokemon, let's put those together because that makes perfect sense. It was just like, we're making a Pokemon fighting game and we need kind of help with the fighting part because we've never done that before. So there's that.
Yep. Total War Warhammer.
That's also just funny.
That's pretty bad. In fact, that's god awful, in fact.
I mean, supposedly that was only like that because the Warhammer brand refused to let them use the Warhammer brand in anything except for Warhammer. Just straight up by itself Warhammer.
Total Warhammer, yeah. They probably didn't like that, and then there might have been on from both sides, right? Maybe the owners of Total War. But we've got to make this clear that it's a Total War game.
Why did they ever change it? I guess they changed it years ago, but why did they ever change the Total War part to... It was better when it was last. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't make
Warhammer,
it...
Total War flows a little better than Total War Warhammer.
Rome Total War, Shogun Total War. It didn't... I mean, the argument is that the emphasis wasn't on the franchise name, it was on the individual games, and maybe it should be like Call of Duty 1, 2, or whatever, Black Ops or whatever. But I think, it was cool because it was different. Shogun, Total War. Rome, Total War.
You still knew what you were getting into.
Warhammer.
I guess it's pride and place
Total
on the
War.
box, maybe, at one point. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they were worried about the box.
Yes, I guess.
It seems like they changed it at the wrong time to be worried about the box.
Yeah, I don't think they care about boxes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's just the Warhammer problem.
Total War
problem, maybe,
Warhammer is definitely bad. I would agree. That would
could have been a sorting problem, I guess, that the Total War games were
I didn't expect they cared about that either. Really.
Maybe. Well, it depends if if you look at a Total War game and you see them like all together, it's like, maybe they'll buy several. Metroid Prime Federation Force.
Because that's putting a brand on something it shouldn't have been on, just to get people to buy it, basically.
Yeah. That is way more concise.
Way more concise than that bit that we just cut out.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. I don't think we need to go into that anymore, even. That's basically it.
It's fairly soulless, and it's just playing on, hey, we made a Metroid game, guys. Come here. Oh, it's a multiplayer shooter on your DS,
and barely has anything to do with Metroid.
And you have to play multiplayer at some points to actually progress. And it's a bummer. And finally, Picross 3D Round 2.
Probably not finally. I think I fought with that one, but yeah, there's that.
Round 2 is a bit of a weird name.
It's a bit of a weird name, and also like Picross 3D maybe didn't really come out in Europe as far as I remember. So it's a bit weird that the second one came out and they called it the second one. I mean, I guess it would have been weird if they didn't call it the second one in Europe. You'd be back to like the Final Fantasy 3 versus 6 thing.
Oh, right, they just called it Picross 3D, but it's not.
But it's actually 2. That would have been weird as well. I just thought that was a bit. The name is just slightly strange as well. Round 2 just is like, what? Why even?
A second round of puzzles?
Yeah, I suppose so. So what was the other one I was looking at? I've already forgotten again.
Excuse me.
Oh, this isn't necessarily so much to do with the name as much as it is a weird thing to do with the game, I guess. But the whole situation with Fire Emblem was just weird. Where they were like, we're going to release 3 games, but they're not going to be the same, and it's like the different games are sort of the difficulty mode, and 2 of them are physical and 1 of them's DLC. It's like, what is even going on? Why would you do that?
That is really odd. I'll give you that. It's again a bit of a. All right, Nintendo are becoming the new EA, right?
They're not that bad.
They're not quite that bad, but they're sort of starting to experiment with practices that you might describe as a little shady. It's like, this is just an excuse to buy 3 games, right, for the price of 1.
Yeah.
Or for the
not
3
for the price of 1.
Yeah, 3 games for the price of 3 games. But
that could have been 1 game.
Yeah, that could have been 1 game.
Well, I mean, maybe they couldn't have been 1 game. Maybe they could have only been 2 games. There's still a cartridge size limit at a certain point. And there was actually, like, more content. They weren't exactly the same in content between the 2 main versions.
Still, yeah, that strategy is nuts, to say the least. I can't see it being appealing to many people to do all 3.
No. Or even 2, really.
Yeah. Bummer if you picked the hard mode option and didn't realise what you were getting into.
If you had got into that without knowing. If you just thought it was like a Pokemon situation where it was like, it's just going to be different characters in this game and it's going to be the same otherwise.
It actually locked the card, didn't it? Or something. Like, if you had a physical copy and and it gave you the choice that decides what story you play, does it lock the card to that version?
I don't remember how that exactly works. I think you could buy the different versions.
Oh yeah, you had to, but once you'd locked it, like you got like a free version with the decision you make. Although the third option's not available right at first. And then whichever one you pick, that cartridge gets locked to that version, and then you have to purchase the download for the second one or something.
I don't know.
Yeah, which suggests that the both versions are on the same card, if that's true.
Maybe.
But yeah, both the first two versions anyway. Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. I sort of I don't like any part of that really. It's confusing and horrible.
And I'm not sure if this counts for this category, but I can't think of another category to really put it in, so I'm just going to say it for now. But the situation with Roller Coaster Tycoon World and how they really quickly shitted it out one day before Planet Coaster came out just to get it out there before them.
That is basically like just...
It's not really a brand thing, exactly. That's just
that is...
evil practice.
It's basically saying that they don't care about Roller Coaster Tycoon anymore, surely. They're just sort of saying, well, we tried. It's got a bad name. We'll just
it was just like it went through 3 developers and got rebuilt like at least once, and then they quickly shit it out just before Planet Coaster, just because they wanted to get ahead of the curve.
It's cynical, and yeah, I can't help but think that they just don't care about the words Roller Coaster Tycoon anymore,
no.
And that they have killed that name by putting this game out.
Well, yeah,
in the state that it's in.
They'd spent too much money to not put it out because they'd already been working on it for so goddamn long with all these different developers. But then they didn't actually bother to finish it. They were just like, cut your losses and run.
Yeah, maybe they made something out of early access, I don't know, but probably not.
That doesn't really fit with this category. But I couldn't think of what category that would fit in.
Yeah,
it's just like evil people being evil.
Yeah, honorary mention somewhere in this process for it being awful.
So there's that.
Total War Warhammer, man, come on. It has to be that.
Yeah, that was dumb.
It's just the worst idea. The thing is, it's not a terrible idea for a game.
No.
It's just a terrible idea for a name.
Yep.
It rhymes, so it must be true. Okay.
Yep. Total War Warhammer. Alright. Moving on to a positive. The best graphics / best looking game of the year. Now, I'm not quite sure whether I'm always in a bit of turmoil about whether we should split this out a little bit into like what game looks, whether we consider like aesthetics and technical prowess in the same thing. But for the most part these days, they sort of are one and the same thing. Like a game with a lot of technical prowess is a good looking game most of the time. You know, both in style.
You just want to be able to say some indie game has a really distinctive look or whatever.
Yeah, kind of.
Separate from, like, something made by DICE.
Yeah, but I think actually in many ways, like those two, while you could look at, okay, let's just get out there. First nomination is Battlefield 1,
yep.
Which obviously Frostbite is an incredible engine and those games look amazing and they run well. Versus something a little more arty like Overwatch, which doesn't necessarily push the technical boundary, but is doing a lot of neat character design and fantastic animation and stuff like that. Not really a technical achievement, but really good looking in different ways. I think those two should be able to fight each other. But then I've also put Owlboy on here because that Neo Geo look is cool. I like how that game looks a lot. I've also put Doom on here because that id Tech engine, boy, that can do some stuff. I mean, the only time that engine's designed exactly for that game. It's designed for corridors and rooms and having a big ass fight in that room. It is not good at dealing with large open spaces. So it's almost the antithesis of the Battlefield engine. But it does that very well, and it ran so well on my machine, and it looks really nice. The only thing against Doom is their slight realism filter, I suppose. Indoors looks way better than outside, but Mars, I suppose, and Hell is all a bit brown and murky and stuff like that. I think that game perhaps could have done with a bit of turning the saturation up a bit and make it a little more colourful. But otherwise, it's a pretty great looking game. Forza Horizon 3, because it still impresses what they're able to do with the Xbone. To be, just how good that game looks running on that hardware at 1080p.
Looks pretty good on PC on at 4K, whatever.
Yeah, but the only thing against it on the PC side is that the port isn't particularly brilliant in terms of graphical efficiency. Like, in order to get it running at 4K at anything other... if you were trying to run that game at anything other than 30 frames per second, you're in a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
It will run any resolution you want at 30 frames per second, absolutely fine, but that game was clearly not designed for running above that. Which is a bit of a bummer.
Sad times.
It also doesn't support the steering wheel I have, so any of the 3 steering wheels I have, so screw that game.
I really want to play that game.
I still kind of do, yeah. Just wasn't in the mood for it this year. Overwatch, as I mentioned earlier, for some hella cool character design and lovely animation and good effects work, and the whole package comes together in a really nice and appealing way. It's pretty great. It has an identity, which is a hard thing to achieve. It's pretty special stuff. The thing about like Overwatch is like it made those hilarious freeze frames of the the bend and the squash and stretch frames in the animation. They weren't afraid to like sort of mess with reality, I guess, to like make a cool animation there. And there are frames where people's faces contort to ridiculous angles because in motion it looks great. Stuff like that. It's a pretty great achievement. As I said before, Our Boy for its Neo Geo look. I really like that look. I've put The Witness here because that's quite a look. Talking about achieving identity, you sort of look at a screenshot of The Witness, whether it's a puzzle or not, and you can sort of tell it's The Witness.
Yes.
And also Thumper, because that game would be nothing if it didn't have its speed and its feel and that's very much part of its look. Is that as much as its handling and audio, the whole thing comes together in a way that, and it's again pretty difficult thing to achieve. So that's my shortlist. Got any more to add?
That's pretty good.
Don't have Titanfall in here because I don't really think that game's a looker. It doesn't really push the boundary, like visually. It's better looking than the first game, but not by much.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everyone says that Planet Coaster looks really good, and it does. But it's like at a certain point, it's not amazing looking in detail because you have to be able to see everything.
Yeah,
because it's a god game. You zoom out and then you don't exactly see all the detail, and then when you zoom in, at a certain point you can only scale do detail so small because you don't zoom in that far.
I gotta say it's kind of impressive just how many people that it does handle, and that all of those have faces
Of a sort.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like there's a.
And it has a unusually good lighting engine for its ridiculous lights and nighttime scenes.
Some of that stuff was quite, it's like, oh, you can actually put a coloured light in a bush and it seems to light correctly and look a bit moody and stuff. It's there's more to it than you'd think.
Yeah. What else? I mean, theoretically, you could say, if you were just talking about the style, you might be able to say that Super Hot has a style, but I'm not sure it's that amazing. It's, I feel like, even though I feel like it's been done before, the kind of idea of I guess it's like a Portal test chamber at a certain point. It's just like the white environment with the things you have to interact have colour.
But it's also, there's more to it, like in that there's a sort of CRT flashes of text on screen.
The real world part of it.
Yeah, that as well. There's a lot of style in that game, for sure. I'm not sure I like it, though.
No, I don't know.
It's like
They could have made it a bit more fancy in the VR
yeah, maybe
VR styling of it.
yeah,
A few more particle effects and stuff.
yeah, maybe.
Because it's slow motion. You have a great opportunity to have things fly around really slowly, like paper and shit kicking up or something. I don't know.
Yeah, then paper and shit would be against its
Yeah,
style
exactly.
in itself. But yeah, there's something to what you're saying there. Yeah, bits of random debris just being there and hanging about would be kind of neat. It's sort of like in a similar way, like Redout tries to do something a little different with its highly desaturated colours in places. Like each some of the levels are like very much like the lighting is quite extreme. So even if you've got like a blue car, it will look like orange because the lighting in the world has such an effect. And they stick to that. They don't just try and dumb down the light. This is what this planet's lighting is. This area's lighting is like this. We're not going to dumb it down so your cars still look like the color they are. I kind of like that they went all in on their lighting model to be what they wanted it for, and that they sort of do this flat polygon thing in that game as well. There's actually not that many. I don't know I guess you'd call them fully textured surfaces. They're sort of like most of them are sort of flat in some way, like the Grow Home effect, I guess. And it's kind of neat, but that game has other visual problems that sort of ruin it. Like, I don't know, that they have a very high quality motion blur effect, but it's a bit too long, if you know what I mean, and a bit too pronounced. So it's it's over enthusiastic about how much it blurs to the point where the game is actually easier if you turn it off. It's gameplay affecting.
Right.
So yeah, that's the only reason Redout I don't think can make it here, because it's got some neat ideas, but it's not quite polished enough to hang with the big boys.
And like Mirror's Edge looked pretty good, but it's like
Mirror's Edge always looks good.
It's another DICE engine thing, and I don't think they did as good a take on the stylized city thing as they could have done if they just stuck closer to the first game's setting and just made it look nicer.
Yeah, I think they backed away a little bit from the starkness of the first game.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. It was a little too busy. A little too real, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, not even that it could have been busy in some ways, it's just they didn't... I guess, like... You could say that in the new Mirror's Edge, like, it wasn't communist enough. The buildings were too different. They weren't all just like, here's the same... Every building is going to be white, and it's going to have these same kind of window panels. And
same doors.
The same doors. And, like, they're more like actual real skyscrapers, so it's like they can be completely different and still next to each other.
And have gravel on the roof and air conditioning and stuff. I don't know.
Well, the air conditioning units were always...
Yeah, they were always there, but there's... Yeah, it was busier, and not necessarily in a utopic pleasing way.
I mean, it did sort of look better at night because it had night, I suppose.
Yeah.
Once you get the neon going, and it's like, oh yeah, this is like a cityscape with cool lights and stuff.
All right. You got any more? Or was that the short list?
No, I think that's it.
All right. So how do we feel about this? What's standing out? For me, it's Battlefield and Overwatch being the two front runners. Because Battlefield's a hell of a good looking game. It doesn't animate particularly well in places.
I don't think I've seen enough Battlefield because my system can't run it well enough to actually see it be good. Well, I did see a little more in the single player where it mysteriously ran better.
The single player in particular looks really good in that game. There are certain parts of it look fantastic. There's something about the mud in that game looks pretty great. Might be the best mud in a game.
I guess that's the game to get it right.
It needed to, didn't it? It's pretty great mud. But then that Overwatch animation, though, man, it's quality. Just McCree pulling his gun. Something about that.
So now I'm sort of feeling Overwatch. Although, I don't know.
It's not very technically proficient. Like, there are definitely flaws. Like, the texture detail could have been way better. There are definitely like moments where you can look at some items in that game and go, ugh. And there are certain effects don't look quite. Certain explosions in particular, like Farah's rockets, for instance, don't. They sort of have a cartoony explosion graphic, which doesn't animate at like 120 frames or whatever. Like it animates at 30. It has that sort of problem that it's clearly a canned like sprite animation, and it's like the elements like that stand out as not being so hot in Overwatch. I guess they were targeting it towards like who's the most amount of people that can play this kind of game, because Blizzard do that. But it still looks pretty great. Also glitches out the least.
I mean, that counts.
Yeah, Battlefield does a lot of weird little odd things. Like the revive animation is still a bit broken, where the character stands up for a frame and is then on the floor, and then their cloak twitches around as it catches up. That's still a bit weird, and it's like even the little tutorial video they show of someone doing a revive animation has that sort of weird twitchy animation in it. It's like could have just fixed that.
Well, maybe it's still a problem for Battlefield. Is I would assume in Battlefield that the ragdoll's the client side, right? Because there's no reason for them to be server side.
Yeah.
Which is why sometimes when you're trying to revive someone, it's like they don't think you're standing on top of them, but you actually are on your screen because.
Maybe. Yeah, that's a bit of could be a bit of a problem. Yeah.
But in any case, even if the position is server side, the actual like limbs and stuff don't have to be. So to some extent, you're never going to be able to make an animation that sorts that out in a smooth way, really.
No, I can sort of forgive it for doing a little bit of twitch, but it's the fact that it has a frame where the guy's clearly stood up right for a split second.
I just find it the animation I have a problem with revising is the first person animation. I always find it incredibly disorientating where your view is like as you like stand back up.
Yeah, it is very wobbly, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm going to struggle to like recommend Forza because although I've seen it in motion, I don't think I've seen enough to cast like solid judgment of its whole thing. Because Forza Horizon 2 had that. It's such a nitpick, but then like the most annoying thing in Forza Horizon 2 that its light modeling was pretty good, except for when as it transitioned in time. So like
no game has ever had smooth time transitions.
Yeah, the shadows always moved in like noticeable steps. And while that's fine while you're driving along, if you're doing like the notice board hunting and stuff like that, and driving around little trees and stuff like that, you can notice it real bad, and it's like, not quite there. And I imagine this is the same, but I imagine in Australia also looks way better than Europe, doesn't it? More varied, at least.
More varied.
But then, yeah, big shout out to The Witness for actually being a relatively good-looking game with a style that had a purpose.
Yes.
A style with purpose. Now, there's a tricky thing. Where its look is somewhat integral to how it plays. World puzzles. There you go. Get that spoiler in there.
Well,
world puzzles.
Not just world puzzles, but puzzles that are based on things in the world. Like the tree branches and stuff.
Yeah.
It's important to be able to see those clearly, so you have to think about like the backing that you're standing next to or whatever.
Really clever. And the solid colourness of things. Like it had to be rendering a certain level of flat lighting in many places to be able to to achieve like visible puzzles that function in the way that the rest of the game does. It's a super clever design. It's got to go to Battlefield though, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's got to go to Battlefield. I mean, I feel it's a bit of a cop out that it's just a technical.
Well, it's just that Battlefield wins every year, essentially.
Yeah, but boy, like there's some stuff going on in that game.
The thing is, it's the best looking game of the year. That's the trouble.
Yeah. The weather thing is neat as well. The transitions are nice and smooth, and really do change things. It's a bloody impressive looking thing. Even the that air fight bit of the campaign looks good.
It wasn't as noticeable as like Battlefield 3's one though. When you actually get in the jet in Battlefield 3, I think that was more amazing.
That was a massive next gen moment, right? The whole jet sequence in Battlefield 3, where it's just like, oh wow, okay, we've stepped up on hardware here. Like
I didn't really notice it in one. I was just like, oh, I'm just flying a plane. It wasn't surprising in any way.
I think you'd already been treated to that incredible opening sequence, which I think looks brilliant, and the that first level with the tank, like, there's something about the tank going through the mud, and then it transitions into that misty forest, and it's like all of it looking pretty realistic. And then you got the crappy stealth bit, but
Yep, it's all stealth. Surprise. Yeah. Nothing to do with tanks.
Well, the crappy stealth bit in the town, or that's the first stealth, isn't it? Where it teaches you
forest first.
Where it teaches, is it forest first? There's a bit where it teaches you to throw a distraction. Like that's it.
No, that's later. That's in the air campaign, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Where you first crash land behind enemy lines.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it in the tank section,
but it doesn't teach you in the tank section.
Well, it doesn't specifically call it out.
Okay. Battlefield.
And I never use that anyway.
I used it occasionally. It was pretty useful. It only ever drew one person, which was useful.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not a proper game.
No.
Battlefield 1, best looking game of the year. Alright. Here we go. It's time for another fun one.
Now, is it?
Coolest audio thing.
Coolest audio thing?
Yeah. So, here we go. The nominees are the Battlefield 1 Revive Inhale.
I don't know about that.
Or is that the worst?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it left an impact on me either way, so...
It makes me laugh every time it happens. So
is that cool or is that bad?
That's a good question. I really don't know. It's enjoyable. Because every time, just to put it in context, every time you get revived in that game, you don't just go, and you're alive. It's it's a really ridiculous, like you're coming out of slow motion and gasping super dramatically. It's a strange sound. It's not quite sudden enough either to sort of let you go, oh, I've been revived.
Yeah, I guess.
It's not like the everything turns yellow and it goes bling, 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 and then Mercy shouts some stuff in Overwatch. That's how you do a revive.
Yeah, but that's a long revive animation as well, technically. Yeah. It's just most of the time you're not seeing it because you're dead.
Yeah. And in fairness, they cop out a little bit on that one. It's just, let's just hide everything in really bright bloom. The guy just stands up, like, is just standing.
Yeah, you just appear, basically.
There's no animation to it, in that. Battlefield 1 Revive Inhale. Chief Beef.
Yep, Chief Beef. And the other various, incidental... And, well, I guess this is the category to say just basically most of the sound stuff in Planet Coaster. Like music transitions and the way they layer different versions of music into each other. Even, just when you're in the game, when you're letting the game run, there's basically no music. You're just listening to the theme park, and if rights have music, you can hear that. But then when you pause and you start building or anything, I don't think you even have to pause, but once you open a building menu and start editing things, then there's music which comes in, like the editing stuff music essentially, and there's various tracks, but those come in. But then as soon as you close down all the menus and just go back to the park again, it doesn't fade the music out immediately. It I don't know what you call it, mutes it or drops some of the tracks, so it goes into a backing track mode for a while before it actually fades out. So then if you close the menu for a minute and it fades out like that and you reopen it, it fades everything back up again. So
it's not jarring.
Yeah.
There's like I alluded to, there's some cool tricks in how Planet. I think that's a separate item to Chief Beef. How how Planet Coaster handles its music transitions is pretty great. In fairness, it's possible to say that Doom does a lot of that as well. Doom's music does shift around as the battle does.
Right.
But I think it's I think the cuts are a lot harder, sort of intentionally, because the hits are a lot harder.
Sure.
It's like when you do a glory kill, it will cut to a special glory kill sting and then move to a different bit of the music or something like that. And yeah, so it does that stuff, but I wouldn't say it's as smooth and as controlled as Planet Coaster handles it. So the Overwatch end of round swell and freeze noise. That's kind of a cool moment, right? At the end of every round, it's like the music is building towards the last few seconds.
I mean,
dun, 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 dun. It's round over.
Well,
it's cool feeling.
It's cool when it actually does that and it doesn't get
if it goes
musically extended by some overtime bullshit.
Yeah,
it's just like duh, duh, duh. It just gets stuck on this like
it goes dun 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 dun, and then just sort of goes ding 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 ding, ding for a while the overtime bit happens.
Kind of ruins it in a way.
A little bit. But the bit when it fits, it's a pretty well executed thing. It's like combined with the sort of screen filling that goes on to say defeat or something.
Sure.
It's like that's neat. I like that. I like that a lot. I think I've questioned myself with this next one that basically says, does Thumper really count here? Because the whole game is an audio thing.
Well, that's why you were talking about it not being music. So that's why it's in this category, apparently.
Yeah.
Because you don't think it's music, but it is an audio thing.
Yeah, the whole game is an audio thing, but it's and there is a certain feeling to certain actions in that game. Like I would call out perfect turns feel good, and a flying pound on an already charged Thumper square. I know that means nothing to you guys, but like when you do it just right, you'll be in the air and you'll slam down to the ground, but it will do a double freeze. So it'll be like, oh, you're about to slam, bang, you've just slammed, boom, this thing comes out in front of you. And it's like nice. The pauses really sort of emphasize it. Sucks if you're in a complex rhythm section and that happens, because obviously the double freeze throws your rhythm out. But during the boss fights, and that's the last action in a particular phrase, that's pretty great. And finally, this definitely doesn't count, but I'm putting in here for comedy value. Star Fox Zero, how they brought back the good luck noise. Because that's a classic. Good luck. And then they had Peppy say barrel roll a lot in one level.
That's definitely not cool.
So they're my coolest audio thing entries.
I only remembered it thinking about Game of the Year, which probably means it didn't really make much of an impact. Except, I guess it did at the time, but like I did quite like how the starting and ending mission music in XCOM 2. Like it's just a nice bit of dramatic backing. It's like while you're fucking with your squad setup. It's just like dramatic music to set you in the mood for going into a fight.
It was slightly overdramatic, I think, compared to the last one. But yeah, that was good.
And it continues into like the loading screen and stuff. So
that's quite nice. Yeah,
and I don't think there's a category for like how much I liked the XCOM 2 loading screen, where it's just your guys sitting in the back of the Sky Ranger, and then like the red lights go on when the game's finished loading, and it's time to deploy.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's good.
Style. Okay, yeah. So the squad set up loading music, I guess.
Yeah.
Any more suggestions? Any more banging hardcore tunes? Any more?
Well, this isn't for tunes. This is for audio things, specifically not music.
Just a thing, just something that it does in your ears.
Yeah, I couldn't really. I was trying to think if Mirror's Edge did anything particularly interesting. It still has that same kind of like the music fades out slightly when you're at top speed or whatever. It does that kind of washed out
the high pass on it.
Yeah. But it's not exceptionally noticeable, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Redout does that as well. When you're flying, it will high pass the music, but that's kind of normal.
Yeah, that's just what games do.
Yeah, for AG racers, that's normal.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. Probably
it. You know what? I should have brought up earlier in the sort of best looking thing. Sorry, just to go back. It wouldn't have won, but just a callback. Quantum Break's like fracturedness effect. And the level of detail in the time freezing fracture set pieces and the carefully organized destruction therein, really very neat. Good job, guys. Good job. Oh, and the facial animation, man, really good facial animation in that game. Like really good. I'd sort of forgotten about Quantum Break, and I'm remembering it now, which is why I'm shouting back. So I still think Battlefield wins, but that game does some good stuff. And I think that game also had some fairly neat sound effects on some of the time shatter stuff. Like when things happened, it made some neat little noises. But most of the time they were subtle. Like sort of like just as things glitched about a bit, there'd be like subtle sort of noises.
Okay.
That was quite effective. And
and you know, just to say this because everyone was obsessed with it, but you know, super hot.
Super hot.
That's not actually that good.
Hot.
I don't know. I quite like that.
It's quite
I
funny.
like that.
Yeah.
I find myself saying that even though I've never played the game.
Right,
That's how good
that's
that
the
is.
thing, though. I think it's like
Yeah.
if you haven't played the game, you don't find that as annoying as it is.
Maybe. Super hot.
That was
It's
great.
it's quite satisfying to say, actually, isn't
Yeah,
it? Like that.
it is.
Should probably play that game at some point, but the VR version of that looks killer. Right. What are we thinking? Chief Beef.
Dude, that is what you're thinking.
Oh my! I haven't stopped thinking about it.
Fine, it's Chief Beef. Winner.
It's just such a stupid moment in a game about like park management. You're just, I'm just going to set up the sign, I'm going to make it look all good, and then suddenly, Chief Beef. It's so dumb. Probably not cool, but dumb.
It's cool in its dumbness.
Chief Beef. We had a good discussion about that, though. That's all that matters.
We made up for the dumbness of our selection by at least talking about them all.
Yep. We paid enough homage. I haven't actually got anything for this category, but Dan had a suggestion for the worst audio thing.
Okay.
Let
me think.
The civilization. I've
the
actually
thing-
written Bavarian, but barbarian village spawn.
It's not. The sound itself is fine. It's just when you hear it, it makes you so angry and annoyed every time because it's a random roll or whatever, and it just means, I guess, and it just means you've lost the roll, I guess. But the freaking, you clear out a barbarian village, and then you go back to your civilization, and it goes bum 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 huh. And you're like, oh no, another one spawned. And you go out and find that one and crush that one. You come back, and it keeps happening even like throughout the. Barbarians are supposed to fade away. I guess this isn't the sound's fault, but they're meant to go away. And they don't. By the end of my first game, I literally had one helicopter that was flying around my home continent, destroying barbarians whenever they spawned. I recently discovered also that the barbarian villages, you can see them in the fog of war. Stupidly.
Oh, weird.
Although they're quite hard to see because the fog of war is not fog of, yeah. No, the revealed parts, the fog of war, which is the revealed parts of maps that you don't currently
have vision in.
Have vision in, yeah. You can actually
sort of
find, and that's kind of inked map in this game, and you can actually see the barbarian outposts. So when you hear that sound, you have to scan around for where they've spawned. But it's just annoying. All the time.
Yeah, I can sort of see why that's on here. I think that's allowed, right?
The sound
it's the same
itself is totally fine. In fact, it's pretty good, but it's just annoying.
I think we had a similar sort of fight about the Dirt Rally beep, right? And that the sound, except the opposite side. The sound itself is bad, but its usefulness is handy.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that was more about sound being bad.
The more relevant one was the what was it called? The fucking detective game, the fail noise, whatever. I've already forgotten everything about it.
The fail noise in the detective game.
What is that fucking game called? The one with the faces.
Oh, what, LA Noire?
That's it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the fail noise was quite annoying.
It's nothing to do with the sound, it's the context of the sound.
It was the context of the sound.
Yeah.
That was incredibly annoying. And that came so annoying because it could have been so good, but they rewrote it. Like the reason they fail with that, I mean, we've gone over this before, but the middle option, the kind of neutral option, was originally intimidate. So whenever you choose the I'm not sure option or the doubt option, your guy goes insane and starts accusing them of stuff, even if they're a rape victim. He has a go at them. And it's what? No, I just wasn't sure, so I put the middle one. Oh,
I just wanted my eyebrow to raise.
Exactly. I just wanted to raise my eyebrow, and you're going, nah, just lame. Anyway,
I'm gonna have a fight with you.
That was crap.
I looked through this whole list and I couldn't really see anything else that I thought of that was a bad one. I did find another good one.
Well, I mean, I could argue that there's not a lot of audio feedback in Redout in general for things like collisions and stuff. It feels a little empty on that front. As it's not irritating per se, but it feels like something that should be there. There should be an impact noise of some sort.
Oh, I did think of another bad one. I've got one more for both. I thought of another good one, which was not really going to beat Chief Beef, obviously, but I did like the
for cool audio.
Yeah, for cool audio.
Oh, we're back on cool audio.
I did like the sound that the light bridges in the end of the witness made. As you're drawing them out.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool. Actually, yeah. Yeah.
That was a really cool sound. And then in the bad sound category, I just remembered that it's not even one sound specifically, I guess, but it's just everything in No Man's Sky that tells you that you're running out of everything.
Oh wow! Okay.
Any of the warning noises, it's you're running out of suit energy, you're running out of gun energy. It's just because you hear it all the time, because you're never not running out of something.
That's a pretty good one. That's almost on a par with my my last year nomination for analysing when Metal Gear. Is it where you're permanently looking at people and analysing how good they are, and it's analysing.
I don't know why I didn't find that annoying. I get why you would.
It was just because it was the same every time.
Yeah.
And you did it a lot.
I quite like that woman in general, though, the voice of your computer or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, don't have a problem with her at all. It's just that one repetition.
Yep. I did like that.
I guess there's only 2 nominations for that.
I suppose it did get annoying as well because you always said the same thing. She only had one canned response.
Yeah, but at least she was a computer. I feel like the helicopter pilot should have said more different stuff.
Yeah. There was times where it's arrived at Mother Base. You know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Has arrived at Mother Base. You heard that a lot.
Yeah. It's this is Pequod. Arriving shortly at LZ.
I've got one more bad audio thing, which is definitely not as good as bad as those other ones.
Mm-hmm.
That when in Planet Coaster, there's at least one crowd scream on one of the crowd screaming noises is for some reason really low quality, noticeably low quality. And it really sticks out even though it's mixed in with a bunch of other ones. And I'm why is that one scream really bad?
Something they could quite easily replace by just getting a new recording, right, and just replacing it.
Okay, maybe this isn't necessarily for this category, but I think they fucked up the scream noises in the winter patch.
Oh, really?
When they redid the thing where they were they adjusted how people reacted to the rides as they were progressing on roller coasters. I just don't think it sounds as good as it did. But I don't think that could easily be fixed as well. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's that for this category, I guess.
What, No Man's Sky warning noises? You reckon, or the barbarian charm?
Barbarians.
Because they're both pretty great cases.
Well, they're both pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's probably more constant in No Man's Sky. Although maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's more annoying that it's in a game that's otherwise quite. That's the thing in Civilization. There aren't that many random annoyances. I guess
But
there are
like-
like people like declaring war on you suddenly for no reason, I suppose. But you know what I mean? It's like quite a slow. There's not that much like you click next turn and then suddenly there's some weird thing that you got to deal with, like weird
you could
surprise
say
or
that
something you couldn't see
like,
coming.
the barbarian thing isn't necessarily even the only thing in Civ that that makes a noise repeatedly. Like, you know, you get pop-ups and stuff constantly in Civ.
Mm.
No, they must have
toned
toned that down this year because they don't make any.
irritating,
They don't make that much noise this time around.
I don't think they were even irritating in 5, really.
There's nothing that annoys me in Civ apart from noise, hearing noise.
I guess the barbarian one is like. I guess that had to have a noise because it's a non-critical one. Because like the pop-ups that tell you to like set your science and deal with this city and stuff, those won't let you end the turn until you get rid of them.
I'll tell you what are good ones if we were to go to cool one, like the pop-ups for the sounds for the espionage. For some reason, they're like weird fluty sounds and do 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 or something, and they're pretty cool. I like those. Even the one where you fail a mission is good. Like sounds cool. So. Yeah.
Like sinister, like flute warbles, like
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know.
That's quite nice.
I haven't heard the beeps in No Man's Sky, but I can imagine they're annoying.
They do seem fairly constant from what I've seen. Which is
I mean, for a game that's about exploring and relaxing, like having constant beeping that you're running out of stuff sounds incredibly irritating.
Can you turn it off in any way, or is it just always there?
I don't think there's actually like options in No Man's Sky as such.
Huh.
Yeah, fine.
I don't think you could toggle like individual warnings or anything. Maybe you could turn the volume slider on whatever that is down, like suit noise or something.
Oh, sure. But then you might get a useful one.
Well, yeah, you do kind of need to know that stuff, otherwise you just die. You just could do with knowing it in a slightly less annoying way.
More on-screen indicators.
Maybe.
Or more highlighting, I suppose.
Yeah.
When something important hits a threshold or something.
Well, yeah, and yeah, I guess you could say that they maybe have it turned up too high into unnecessary. Like, I don't need to know where my suit power is at 75%.
Right, yeah.
That's like basically irrelevant.
Yeah, when it hits 50, maybe you start thinking about turning home. All right, so what do you reckon?
Oh.
That's between you guys, I guess, this one. I have no...
You go for it, Zeg. That's fine. That sounds annoying.
Yep, okay.
All right, the No Man's Sky warning noises. Worst audio thing of the year. All right, last category before the main event.
Okay.
This is the baffling decision, dumbest thing, hottest mess, biggest WTF of the year, in a bad way.
In a bad way. These are all
right.
negative, aren't they? Anyway, never mind.
Yeah. Well, negative stuff's fun. We had some good ones, come on. Like, coolest audio thing, best graphics. It's a good year for games, in fairness, so building the irritating categories was hard.
The trouble with this category is there could be quite a lot of stuff that overlaps with like most disappointing and stuff.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, but like this one, you can pull in news that was like not strictly related to games necessarily.
You can.
So here we go. Palmer Luckey funding a pro-Trump meme magic, if that's his own words there, meme magic style site called Nimble America that ended up sort of, you know, as memes in the internet do, becoming quite racist and Nazi-liking and all kinds of bad stuff. And, yeah,
As memes do, you know.
Yep. And Palmer Luckey was funding it. Good luck for Oculus. So there's that. There's the Counter-Strike Go gambling takedown.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, definitely not that one.
But it wasn't the takedown that was the fucked up thing, it was the whole situation.
Yeah, I
Where
guess.
like they basically one guy was running two competing gambling sites and they were just basically trading money back and forth between them essentially.
Yeah. and also advertising it as if he was he's just a Counter-Strike player. It's like, hey guys, I just discovered this site.
Yeah.
And they've been, blatantly lying about it all. One man's lie.
Mm-hmm.
The Sean Murray backlash. Overwatch's Buttgate, about changing Tracer's pose to be slightly less arsey. Tetris Ultimate being unplayably laggy at launch. It's a Tetris game, for God's sake. Mario Maker on 3DS losing its internet sharing and level browsing.
Yep.
Fable Legends being cancelled despite some good early impressions and an incredibly lengthy dev cycle. And an example of we spent all this money and time on it and we're still not putting it out. EA releasing Battlefield 1 and Titanfall 2 1 week apart in the busiest shooter season ever.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that was dumb.
That was really dumb. Any of those stand out to you as discussion points? Or
What about Street Fighter 5 not having Street Fighter in it?
I love how you worded that. Well, it's all, it added the main Street Fighter-iness in it.
Kinda.
But yeah, definitely wasn't a complete game at launch by a long shot. Yeah, it did kind of dampen the just the whole buzz about that game, right? It's not really been the same since it came out. For all intents and purposes, the descriptions are that the fighting engine is still as solid as it's ever been.
But no one cares.
But no one cares because of how they launched it.
Yeah. Now you've totally missed an important one for this category because it's one that doesn't go in most disappointing for us.
All right, what's that?
The whole Mighty Number 9 situation.
I guess. That was just a bad game. Well, I guess if
it was a bad game, and then the marketing.
The marketing, yeah, that's definitely.
And
worst
it was a bad game that wasn't anything like what was promised on Kickstarter to start with.
Sure, yeah, it didn't end up looking anything like his like concept trailers.
Mm-hmm.
Cry like an anime fan on prom night. Boy, it was some terrible.
I guess this would have been the category for Roller Coaster Tycoon World, but it's not compared to any of the other shit.
Yeah. That was always going to be poop. Yeah, man. And what do you pick out of that? I mean, the obvious one would be Sean Murray, right? And just the lie spinning.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, and all the other stuff that happened after. Well, all the not stuff that happened afterwards. Complete silence. And then the fake or maybe not fake hacks.
Well, yeah. That's highly weird. Yeah, that his account got hacked. And what did he say when it was hacked?
Like, the Twitter account was like, we never should have released it.
Oh, yes,
like,
yeah. And how Sony have just been like not being involved in this.
Well, that was good for them.
Yeah.
They were just like, we can get away with just like, nope.
Nothing to do with us.
We're not going to talk about that at all.
We're not getting it on here. They just dropped it. Yeah, Buttgate was stupid, but not really a big deal.
No.
Tetris was really stupid, but also not a big deal because it's just Tetris.
Yeah.
Mario Maker didn't really cause a fuss, did it? It's
because everyone had already everyone already knew the Wii U version was good, and then, the 3DS version it was the same as you could say it's the same as Smash Bros. Which the 3DS version is just not going to be as good as the proper version. And in Mario Maker's case, the proper version came out first, so it was really obvious that it was going to be the proper version.
It's a massive bummer, but at the same time, it's just so bizarre that they decided to take that stuff out. The whole we can go online and download any level you want. When they're putting out games like Federation Force that have an entirely online, mostly online requirement and multiplayer requirement, they take the internet-enabled part of the game that made the first game magic and just go, nope, not here. If you want levels, you can find them on your phone or something. And it's like, yeah, it's pretty dumb. It's pretty dumb. And yeah, the Fable Legends thing, that's... I'm not sure it's surprising, but that game was so far along, and the people that had played it so far had come away going, yeah, you know what, this is actually kind of good, for the most part. And they still didn't put it out, even though it was like going to be a free-to-play game.
Yeah, they changed to that.
I mean, that's bizarre, like not putting a free-to-play game out. I mean, could it really have cost that much to run the servers than they could have brought in from whale money?
Well, it depends what their microtransactions would have been.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they never finished making them.
Yeah, just really odd. Really odd, that one. So, right, okay. Need to build a short list here out of these lot. This lot. Do we, the EA thing is really dumb. Because
I like
that seems
one.
like, yeah, because that just seems like such a blunder.
Well, and because they were already fighting against Call of Duty, as always.
And itself. Yeah. And Gears, and yeah. And everything. There's that, there's One Man's Lie, and I don't know, maybe Palmer Lucky? That's pretty bad, but it hasn't really affected Oculus in any way, so maybe not.
Well, it's the same kind of situation as No Sky, where it's like, after it happened, it's just like, quick, shut up!
Yeah, he hasn't said
Just
anything.
leave.
He's definitely not, he hasn't been the face of Oculus since.
No.
And he probably can't be again, or at least not for a long time. Sort of ruined their, like, he's this poster child genius that's built Oculus. Which is mostly a lie anyway, as it turns out.
I mean, No Man's Sky is the biggest mess in general. But what about for us?
I mean, for us, I guess it doesn't make a big difference, did it?
It's like the Battlefield and Titanfall thing was really dumb, but that's
Yeah.
like, it's such a small thing. It's actually like a really tiny, like, it's a singular mistake rather than the No Man's Sky thing, which was a whole series of mistakes.
The problem is like it's such a it's one mistake, but it's a big mistake in terms of Titanfall sales.
Sure.
It's like if it means that game doesn't get the support, the multiplayer support moving forward, that's a bummer. If it means that we don't get a Titanfall 3, they done fucked up.
I don't think that's going to be a problem. It is EA after all. They don't kill things until they've made a literally bad one, like SimCity.
Yeah, I wonder if you'd like to think EA know that they've made a great game here, right? Regardless of what the sales figures are.
Yeah, probably.
And they're like, oh, we can give this another shot, and maybe they learn from their release window mistakes. Maybe. Just put it out in March. It'd have been fine. Yeah. Blog. What are we down to? I've lost the plug.
Pretty much that and No Man's Sky, I think.
We're giving it to No Man's Sky because it's the biggest mess.
Yeah, I suppose that makes
literally the biggest.
I suppose it's made worse by the fact that the hype train was so large for it in media.
Well, yeah, it was all it wasn't really what happened with Sean Murray. Even there at the end, it was just like everything.
Yeah.
It wasn't even really his fault entirely. It was like Sony were marketing it so much that he got dragged into being marketing for it, and then he had to go and say stuff, and then he said the wrong stuff.
I guess, but it was a number of talk shows. It was,
and of course, before that, even there was the whole period where they didn't show it.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't stop fucking talking about it and not showing it.
Yeah, it went on for a really long time. And then there was, well, it even made BBC National News, didn't it, to say, hey, this hot company.
Yep, this hot indie developer in Guildford in their little shed.
Yeah, it's making one of the most hotly anticipated games of the year. And it's like, that's national news somehow. Insanity. Right, here we go. Here we go. The big boy.
Yeah.
Game of the Year 2016, which I can't stylize on my sheet properly, so it's got a little flag.
Okay.
Alright, I haven't written down nominations.
What, you haven't?
No,
Why not?
because I just wanted
I would
to...
have thought there would have been several obvious
Well,
ones.
they're all quite. Yeah, they'll be running off the cusp of everyone's... No, you guys are as important as mine, so just rattle them off. What do you reckon? Let's go.
Continent's Egg.
No, what? You should do your ones first.
I don't know if I have a game of the year this year. I think Metal Gear is better than any game this year. Maybe Overwatch?
The outsider looking in, game of the year.
Yeah.
Would you not even put Civ 6 up there?
I don't think it's game of the year. I mean, I like Civ 6 better than XCOM 2, but most people don't seem to, so there you go. Given they're both for access, I don't know. I think Civ 6 is the best Civ game I've ever played.
So I think it's easy to look at Civ 6 and compare it to any of the other stuff we're about to say and easily say that it's not going to beat them. So it's still a great game, but it's clearly not going to beat most of this other stuff that we're about to say.
I want to hear what the good games were this year, because I don't know what they were.
Well, in a weird way, a lot of what we've played were technically good games, right?
Forza Horizon 3, I want to play that. That'll be good.
Yeah, well, we haven't hit too many duffers. I mean, my duffer was Star Fox, probably.
I don't think we ever do we?
Well, sometimes we get unlucky, I think. But so, I guess we have to throw the three biggest shooters in this list for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not even putting Battlefield on here because I think Overwatch and Titanfall 2 are better games. Battlefield is one of the best Battlefields in a long time, and I think it's a great presentation, and I think it plays well. I think it's a lot of fun. But if I was to put that up against Doom, Overwatch, and Titanfall, I can't see it besting them. I just can't. Doom brought out a level of joy in its single player that I wasn't expecting. And there's something very pleasant about being punched in the face in that Doom way. There's just not been a game like that in so long, right? To be able to just run around an environment as fast as you can, shooting things, tearing them in half, and not having to worry about reloading and management and inventory and all that nonsense. It's like, it's so refreshing just to play a game and go like that. And then equally, like, given, like, you know, on Overwatch's side, it was always going to be a highly stylized and highly polished game because, you know, Blizzard. But, you know, what's really surprised me is that their concept of having a lot of characters and maybe a little too few maps, but it still kind of works because every match feels different enough because of the character combinations, because of you playing you have so many different ways to play as yourself that it doesn't ever get old. Or at least so far, it just hasn't got old, which is amazing. Were this last year, it might have been part of the multiplayer games with not enough content section.
Yeah, it could well have been.
But they go all in on, what's it, 21 characters at launch or something ridiculous? At 21 classes, and now it has 23. It's something like that. I can't remember the exact number. But
I feel like it wasn't over 20.
Mm.
I was trying to think of them.
Still, it's a pretty large number for a class shooter. Yes.
Anyway, that's what everyone said, but as I argued on a forum somewhere, it's like, there may only be technically 9 characters in Team Fortress, but that's not actually 9 characters.
No, because you've got like weapon loadouts and stuff like that, which Overwatch doesn't do.
No.
Your character is your loadout, effectively.
But yeah, it was still quite a lot.
Yeah. And it works. It really works. And in the opposite direction, talking about loadouts and stuff, Titanfall 2 expanded its loadout stuff.
Which is what it needed.
And that was enough, really. That game's great. I've put a lot of time into it, and I find it a barrel of fun every time I play it. It doesn't like startle the senses in a way that Doom and Overwatch do in terms of their visual fidelity or in terms of Doom's just raw feel, but it is a joy to move about in Titanfall, even though you can occasionally get stuck on the geometry. You know, it can happen. It's the problem with like a nice movement system like that is unless your levels are totally polygonal, flat surfaces and stuff like that, you're always going to get the odd little thing where you can't quite go where your plan of how to get somewhere doesn't quite come off because you hit a little lump
I guess, but like theoretically, you should be designing to prevent that.
Yeah.
It was like how there used to in Team
it's
Fortress there'd be like those wagon wheels leaning up against the wall that had collision geometry for no reason.
Oh yeah,
and
they were really
you'd always
annoying.
get stuck against them. It's just like you've just designed that badly. It's not necessarily to do with the level design.
Or overly sticky outy door frames.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That used to be a real bugbear of mine in TF2. But yeah, all three of those are great games. Whereas I don't think Battlefield really reinvents anything. It's just Battlefield, but it's
Well, and it did a kind of dumb thing of making Battlefield 1 too much like modern Battlefield.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
There's just so many machine guns, and you have all this like stuff that's too technological for the age, even beyond that. Where it's like, oh, your scope can change range and all that stuff.
You can set your drop off or something, and it's There's definitely some properly anachronistic stuff in there. A little too much, or at least all the good kit is too freely available in that game. I guess they might have had some of that stuff, but the fact that it was everywhere in the game is
not everyone should have machine guns. For God's sake. Where are the bolt action? There's not even that many of them.
No, I would have liked to have seen a more bolt action focused game. Yeah, but it's still fun as it is, and it doesn't really innovate on the formula at all. Although War Pigeons is a cool mode, silly but cool. So that's my main three, I think.
Well, fuck all that, because The Witness.
You make a strong argument.
Yeah, I like The Witness. I'd probably go for that.
It was.
I mean, it's
There's
not
no
Metal
denying
Gear,
it.
obviously. But yeah. Anyway.
God damn it.
Yeah,
it's the best looking game of the year and the best puzzle game and the best
and
indie
it turned out
game.
to
And
actually have as much content as they claimed it did, surprisingly.
yeah,
It was massive.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of The Witness.
And, everything about the whole discovery process.
I think there was a lot of that was front loaded. To be honest, it's like a lot of the cool discovery was near the start of my experience.
Well, it depends on I mean, there's the one thing, the hidden puzzles that or whole malarkey, and it's that could happen to you at any time, essentially. I mean, there's the one really obvious one at the top of the mountain, which is kind of the one place where
that's the one where
it's trying to tell you it directly.
Yeah, that's the one where you should notice it. But well, as you can go watch the video that we did, of me
the post spoilers.
of me discovering what the hell is going on in The Witness in that aspect, and it's just it's such a eye-opening moment where you're just like, oh god, there's way more to this game than I first thought.
But it also depends on which part.
But then all of that is kind of pointless as well.
Well, obviously. I mean, it's all pointless technically.
Well, that is the point of the game, that it's pointless.
Well, yes, that's also true. But I mean, it's in reality, you're not getting anything even by solving the regular puzzles. I mean, technically, you turn on the lasers and you get to the ending, but that's not even. You have to do all of them. You just do whatever ones you want.
Mm.
But the other, we were talking about the progression of the cool stuff being too front-loaded or whatever, that also kind of depends on which segments of the island you do in what order to some extent. Because some of the mechanics are cooler than others in terms of the actual puzzle boards.
Mm. Yeah, there were some irritating ones for sure. Like the reflection one ran a little.
Well, that was cool, but there was too much of it.
I think they definitely did too much of it. And when you got to the water room, that got more irritating than cool. It's you knew what you had to do, but just trying to find the angle sometimes.
See, I did that quite early on, so for me that was I didn't know that other parts. Yeah.
Well, it's just you naturally go to that area quite early on.
That was the second area.
But a lot of videos I've seen of people playing The Witcher, most people don't get it when they first go to that area.
Mm. Oh no, that was good.
See the clue, essentially.
Mm.
That was good.
I'm not saying it's a weak part of the game. Just that water room was a sort of this was that was the first time in that game where I felt like turning it off.
Well, it's just you just kept going fucking downstairs. It's there's 3 levels and then you keep going and it's oh Jesus, there's another cave even after the water room.
Yeah.
It was really just too much of that.
I mean, the video room was kind of neat when you sort of discover there's puzzles in it.
I mean, sure, yeah. The whole video, the whole FMV section was pretty ridiculous. That was another cool segment.
The clips that they've chosen as well, boy.
Well, okay, you don't like those. Some of those are a bit ridiculous in themselves. Really.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I need to sit here and watch someone just sitting in a chair for
20
15 minutes.
or whatever long it is, yeah. Talking about nonsense.
But then you had like the way you even get those puzzles by solving the Uber puzzles essentially on the 6 volts or whatever.
I didn't find them all.
I think you saw it, but I don't think you solved the one on the boat, right?
No.
Oh, okay, you didn't even see that.
There was there was an incredibly long one around the boat that I managed to do because you needed to be riding in the.
Oh, you mean the visual? Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the world puzzle where you have to be in the little.
But I meant the vault
dinghy.
in the boat.
No, I don't think I did
in the
that
boat, not the small boat.
The shipwreck.
Yeah, the shipwreck.
Yeah, I don't think I did that one.
That's actually the hardest puzzle.
I didn't find the room. In fairness, I didn't even know it was there.
That's the hardest puzzle in the game, supposedly.
Oh, really?
I can see why. Well, I think I said this at the time when I was trying to not talk about it in a spoilery way as well. But like, it's not actually a hard puzzle to solve in terms of like moving the line through the grid.
Right.
Once you know what you're doing, and I basically worked out what I needed to do, but I just misinterpreted one thing very slightly, and that was what was annoying about it.
Is there like a unique mechanic to that puzzle then? Or?
No, I mean, like most of the faults, it's a combination of several of the other mechanics
in the hex pattern.
Well,
oh no, is this the door?
The door.
The door, right?
Where it's like it's a combination of 3 different things or whatever. If I remember rightly, it's a reflection one, so there's 2 lines, but one of them is invisible, like the invisible line reflection puzzle.
Right, yeah.
And it's like sound based.
Oh, cool.
So there's like different noises.
I really liked the sound puzzle. Although the one where you're in the bottom of the was it the room with the multiple lights that you can change the lights on and like
you mean the one downstairs?
Yeah, there's like I couldn't figure that one out.
Well, that's
you told me how to solve that one.
It's obvious when you think about it.
Yeah, but I just didn't think about it.
But yeah, so the vault, the ship.
I can't
vault,
even remember it now, to be honest. But
well, it's because like the speaker's broken, so you can't hear the noise, which would be how you'd solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
But you only have to make the 2 puzzles match, so there's only one way you can solve both puzzles essentially.
Yeah, I just didn't think of that.
But yeah. And then, that thing on the ship, it's like I knew exactly what I was meant to be doing. I just hadn't worked out I interpreted one thing wrong, and then as soon as I went to look it up, I went to a webpage and he just said one word, and I was like, oh, obviously, duh, because I got this one thing very slightly wrong. So yeah, those puzzles were good, and like the end, the bit inside the mountain with the light bridges was where it got ridiculous. And look, I did like those wall panels where they just like completely fucked with everything. It's like all the tracking is off and the colours go weird. And
oh boy, yeah, those the ones that flashed bright white and black.
Well, sure, those were a bit
screw those.
A bit annoying.
Yeah, it did my head in after a while. Also, just that general light bridge puzzle, pain in the jacksy.
Well, it's that's not even that bad when you go back to it. When you have to do it backwards.
I didn't bother with that. I knew it was. I kind of knew it's like I had a hard enough time figuring this out the first time. I can't. I just can't.
But then then after all that, after you've seen the fake ending, and you want to go for the real ending.
The real ending is cool.
And you get into the mountain, and it's like, holy shit, there's a 5 times more puzzles down here to start with. And the audio logs. I mean, the audio logs are generally kind of annoying through the base of the game.
Yeah.
And then once you get the context, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, the weird order, the descriptions of why it is what it is. Which I do wonder if they're like transcripts of real developer conversations, or if they're just put in there to mess with us.
Probably not. And I did notice, I mean, this is just like one small cool thing that I just wanted to say. There's an audio log you find out in the island somewhere. I think it's in the castle. And at the end of it, there's like a pause, and the woman just says, hey. And when you go into the mountain, you find the full audio log where she's reading the thing, and then she starts talking to someone afterwards. And it's like they clipped that audio when they sent it out into the island wrong.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
It's actually really cool.
Oh, that's neat. Hey.
So yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff in The Witness. The Witness. And that's pretty much all I have to say about Game of the Year, I think.
There's a freaking cloud puzzle in that game, isn't there?
There is. It's not
I knew there was going to be.
It's not terrible. Well, okay, there's technically 2 cloud puzzles, and one of them is worse than the other.
One of them involved a lot of waiting.
Not a lot of waiting,
Okay.
some.
Some waiting.
You just have to find the right place to stand. That's the actual difficult part.
Because I could never figure out throughout the entire time playing that whether the clouds are actually moving.
Well, most of them don't, that's why.
Yeah.
Because it's only the ones that are part of that puzzle are moving.
God damn it.
The other cloud puzzle is the more annoying one, the black cloud.
I don't know. I haven't done any of them.
Well, did you see the black cloud? Did you see the one black cloud in the sky and then wonder why the fuck there was a black cloud in the sky?
Yeah, I do remember the black cloud. I kept thinking, like, for ages that there'd be, like, a horizon one somewhere.
Where it'd be reflected in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that for a while too.
Never found that.
It didn't really fit, though. Like, the design of the line puzzles wouldn't have really worked with that exactly.
The challenge really killed me on that game, though.
Like the last
I
challenge.
just don't like it. It's a horrible, horrible thing.
It wasn't too bad.
It just feels like it's so against the things that make that game good, and then it just throws you into a timed, randomly generated puzzle where your success just feels random. And I just cannot do those cylindrical puzzles fast. I'd always get if I was on a good run, I'd get to that room and just go, "Oh, I'm done." Like, no, I'd like have half the time left in some runs, and just be like, "Can't do it. I just can't solve this ridiculous cylinder puzzle. I can't see what I'm doing."
Yeah, I don't know why I found those cylinders easier than most of the other ones. I mean, presumably they were meant to be easier than most of the other ones because of the being part of the whole time limit thing.
Spent way too long trying to do that thing, and that music will forever be worst audio thing. That fucking music.
It was fine. I mean, it's just the Hall of the Mountain King. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's more the first half of it.
Okay, yeah. The waltz section.
So annoying. So annoying. I'll forever associate that music with rage. The Witness.
Yep.
I think that's more or less it for my game of the year. I could say Planet Coaster, but it's just like, it's not the best game ever, so it's not going to compete against the other stuff.
Yeah.
It's a bloody good game, and considering like how it basically came out and was exactly what it was intending to be for a change.
Yeah. You know what? I will say I like Overwatch and Titanfall more, for sure. But it's really hard to argue against The Witness. You know, like even though I'm sitting here racking my brains going, what have I got?
What is the major problems with The Witness?
What have I got? Yeah, what have I got? I've got nothing.
And as we always sort of end up considering in our game in the end, Dan was infused about The Witness to some extent as well.
Yeah, all three of us for once. That's
Probably the
rarity.
best game I've played this year, I would say, is The Witness. Yeah. I like Firewatch, that was pretty good. But
Yeah,
A game we haven't even mentioned yet in this whole podcast. Apart from probably when Rob read its name right at the start.
yeah,
because
really.
we didn't have any categories for it. Didn't do a worst audio thing, so it didn't really fit.
We did have a worst audio thing.
No, I know.
do one.
Firewatch didn't do one.
Oh, okay, great.
Dan was listing categories it's not in.
Okay, sorry, didn't hear the not. Yeah, I don't know. Well,
I like that The Witness and Firewatch are a nice trend of like first-person games that are not shooters. I like that.
Yeah, but even
And also with a stylized kind of world. Although
Yeah, and still
the
don't fall
Firewatch
into
isn't
the
a puzzle
walking
game, so
simulator.
it.
Yeah, they actually have a game
yeah.
to some extent.
I mean, Firewatch
Like-
is kind of a walking simulator, but not to the extent of like
Not in the reductive
Gone Home.
sense.
Or
Yeah.
I even like Gone Home, but Firewatch is much more engaging. I mean, it's much less like,
It has
stuff
goals
happened and you're
stuff
coming
a
back
bit
to
more
it.
literally.
Firewatch, you're actually
Gone
in the
Home.
story rather than like reading the story, or, like from audio logs, which is essentially all bits and bobs that you're finding in the world, which is essentially what you're doing in The Witness or in Gone Home or in.
So here's the thing: I could have put like
Bioshock
categories in where Firewatch would have been put in. So like like a good story or a good character. But to be honest, I don't think in general we've played enough games where that stuff is this year where that stuff is important. Like we've basically got that, maybe Doom, Maybe Day of the Tentacle Remastered, if you want to count
That doesn't
that.
count.
You can't count that. It didn't come out this year.
And
Well,
Quantum Break.
I did
And
play that.
maybe Titanfall. Maybe. So Doom and Titanfall are big maybes on that. So you're basically left with, Firewatch and Quantum Break as narrative-focused games.
I definitely want to play Firewatch again,
Yes.
but I think
Rather
Witness
than
is the best game. The
Threats
Witness
always.
is the best game I've played.
Best characters, clearly you got like several of the people of Stardew Valley and
The Titan in Titanfall 2. BT. BT's pretty cool. It's way cooler than your character, anyway.
yes, your character is just generic.
Generic
guy.
Dan.
Yeah. Jack Cooper. I think anyone whose first name is Jack generally is like, oh, this is a generic dude name.
Well, it tends to be always how it goes with the military game people. Like, generic game guy, soldier man.
Mm. I think that the narrative in Owlboy is going to do some cool things. It has some pretty neat setup. It does make you relate to those characters very fast.
Mm.
So I think that will go places. But, if we were to, again, I need to play that whole game before I can really put it into a story and character category, really. Likewise, I think Uncharted probably would have had a good shout at some of that stuff as well.
Best character, Chief Beef.
Chief Beef for president.
He's already the chief. It's convenient.
Now he can be the commander in beef.
Yep, the commander in beef. That should definitely be another sub-brand of Chief Beef. That'd be like the high class chain.
The steak restaurant.
Yeah.
Commander in beef.
Hail to the beef.
That's great. All right, I think we're decided.
Yeah, I think so.
Joint beefs
Well,
of staff. I don't know. How far can you extend the chief thing?
Game of the Year 2016 from all of us at the Saladcast
Is The Witness.
The Witness. You have witnessed this Game of the Year happen with your ears.
You sure have.
Yep, I think that was... Yeah, makes sense.
Right on schedule.
Right on schedule.
Yep.
What, 11:05?
Yep. Exactly what I predicted. 10 or 11. It turned out to be 11. Because of course it did. It's never the shorter option.
No, Game of the Year is never shorter. Good discussions this year. Enjoyed it.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on this Game of the Year thing.
You're not meant to be doing that.
I know, but Dan's
Dan's
doing
job.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Well,
Okay then. So you probably should do it.
I think this year's over.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dan's already checked out. We're done here.
Play The Witness. You should probably play it. It's pretty good. It's on Steam.
Yep.
I think it might be on sale, so
Quite possibly.
go and get it.
Yeah, I don't know.
For the next 4 or 5 days, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's also on Xbone and PS4. So
Yep, sure is.
God knows
Available
what
on
else
all,
they do.
on platforms. Yeah, probably play that. It's pretty good.
Whoop, whoop.
The end.
Bye for now.